Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and of course, alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, know-it-alls? Welcome back again for another edition of Football on the Know Show. We are ready to go. We are super excited because, oh my God, Jim, we're already halfway there.
Yep.
As Bon Jovi would say, we're halfway there.
That's right.
So,
and we definitely are living on a prayer.
and
here
we
with some of
are
these
living
teams.
on a
Yes,
prayer,
that's right.
especially for our teams. And the prayer's not being answered. We'll say that much. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. We know we love and really do appreciate you guys tuning in. If you can help us out a little bit, head over to our channel. And if you're not subscribed already, well, damn, just go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe already. Football on the Know Show. When you're there, hit the thumbs up as well. Make sure you share it to all your family and friends. And also, don't forget to comment because that's right, we are live, and every time you comment, we are going to react to your comment, whether it be an opinion, whether it be a question. We'll bring it up on the show. We'll give you a shout out. And you know what? Let's just have a great time today.
Yeah,
let's just
do
have
it,
a
Joe.
good one.
Yeah, buddy.
We're also going to be looking into the playoff picture. We're going to give you our thoughts on the playoff picture and what it may look like by the end of the season's time. And we'll give you our game picks. And, hey, whatever else you guys want to talk about, make sure you drop in the comment section down below. We'll be talking as long as you guys want to talk. Let's go.
There we go. All right, so, Joe, it's seeming now as though it's election time, too. Actually, before we get into that, your offensive coordinator got fired, man. You've been asking about, you talk about prayers being answered.
God.
How about that, Joe? So we got to see, we talked about, we're not going to get into coaches, hot seats, and all that stuff again.
Right.
We've done that before, but
Yeah.
Dennis Allen finally gone. So again,
Hey,
there's another
that's
guy.
one.
Boom, down.
Check them off.
Looks like Mike McCarthy's next on the chopping block. We're hearing different things about that
Yeah.
moving forward. I've heard a scenario. I'm sure that is just a dream pipeline here, but I've heard a couple scenarios that people are bouncing around, involving your team as well.
Yes.
and the Cowboys. So, but yep. So there you go. You get your prayers have been answered there.
Well,
and Dennis Allen's getting fired. So Saints, one of those teams that again just start off so good, right, and then all of a sudden just hit the bricks, right after that, and just terrible. Can't do anything right, and a complete disaster. And there you go. Now the head coach is out there, and they are ready to move on.
That's
All
right.
right, Joe, we've got our first comments.
Oh,
Mike Tackett is in
like
the house
it.
with us, just like that.
Yes. Playoffs. You kidding me? Absolutely. That bit never gets old. Mike Tackett, appreciate you chiming in. And by the way, Mike Tackett is a OG know-it-all,
He is.
if you guys must know. He's probably one of the day ones that we've had on this show, and a very loyal day one. Really do appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But they are who we thought they were.
Oh, Dennis
That's
Green.
another one.
That's another good one, Dennis
Oh,
Green.
boy. Yeah, Joe. So, okay, so that went down. I know you are excited about that. But seeing now, Election Day has happened. It's over. We
Yes.
found a president just like that overnight. We have to wait a week and a half, anything like that. But seeing as though it's mid-season and stuff like that, too, we like to talk about the league MVP, Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think we should do like a season kind of
Mid-season?
votes right now. It's cast some votes here, but
Let's-
what we're gonna do is we're gonna
Yeah.
kind of like curtail off of a report by Pro Football Focus. Mike Florio and those guys have done the job for us here. So we're gonna go with what they kind of suggest, and we can
Okay.
kind of agree or disagree or suggest somebody else that's even in this. I think that is actually worthy too as well in some of these.
Gotcha.
So let's get right to it. Let's start off with league MVP. And right
Okay.
now they're saying Lamar Jackson, which he looks really good too. He's got a high QBR, a bunch of TDs to touchdown ratio here. Playing really clean football too, not making a lot of mistakes here. So he's got to be the leader right now too. So I can agree with this pick right here. And let me tell you, the fact that this guy, if he lands it upcoming in this season by the season's end, he's got so many league MVPs in just as many years that he's been in the league. You could see this is like record-breaking stuff here, especially for a young quarterback at the age he is right now.
I think it's funny though. Like we talk about MVP and everything. A lot of the times they're just hand given. Like the player doesn't always deserve the award. It doesn't matter if it's Offensive Player of the Year, MVP. It just every year it seems like it's a popularity contest. And last year was evidence of that. There was plenty of evidence of it. You look back at those stats last year with the quarterbacks. I'm sorry, but Lamar Jackson does not deserve that MVP last year at all. It's a quarterback. Now, there was a couple other quarterbacks that had really good years that deserved that award last year, and Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott. And God, I hate saying those two names, but the fact that they were up and running. They were killing it last year as a quarterback. And they gave it to Lamar Jackson, which I was just blown away by. I was blindsided. And you look at his stats, and yes, he did lead in two or three categories as a quarterback. Like completion percentage, I think, was one of them. Definitely not attempts, but he had the touchdowns in that nature. But overall, when it came to passing yardage, when it came to touchdown to interception ratio, when it came to a lot of the other critical and major categories, he wasn't even in the top 10 of the conversation. So I don't like so far the way they've been handling the voting and the way they handle the awards. There's more times than not, a player that really does deserve it does not get the award. So that's my only, part of this is the fact that they seem to be giving it to the popular players and not the guys that really do deserve it. And that's unfortunate because a guy like Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott last year that were killing the league and lighting it on fire, they didn't even get mentioned. They didn't even get included into that conversation. So, and it goes beyond that. It goes running backs, it goes receivers, all of that. Like there's guys that just flat out outplay everybody, but they might not be the biggest name. They might not be, as well known as some others, but they at least deserve to be in the conversation.
Right, and just sticking with the team, like I'm going to throw this out there again, and we're just doing it because we're just spitballing this stuff out there.
Yeah.
Agree with me, disagree with me. You're probably going to disagree, but I'm throwing it out there to be devil's advocate.
Okay.
You, I think, honestly, can even have an argument that sticking with that team, Derrick Henry is MVP of the league right now because the way that team has played since they really started handing the ball off to him, and the way he's performing right now, we're talking mid-season, and he's over 1,000 yards rushing right now.
Right.
This stuff that him and also Saquon Barkley are doing right now, these guys are potentially offensive players of the year right now with the way these two guys are playing at running backs in the running back position. And I know we get overlooked so many times with this running back position here, but with the success of the Baltimore Ravens, it has been behind the back of Derrick Henry, 1,052 yards, averaging 6.3 yards a carry, 11 touchdowns on the season. If they don't have Derrick Henry, I don't know if we're talking about Lamar Jackson in the same situation.
And it's not just that either. Like, think about it this way, too. The fact that how successful Derrick Henry has been with this Baltimore Ravens team, and a lot of people expected this, right? We expected it. It was just like a marriage made in heaven here. But now, it also has elevated the play of Lamar Jackson because teams have to focus in on Derrick Henry. They're worried about him getting all these crazy yards. So now that they're all concentrated on him, they're trying to stop him. But at the same time, now that oh crap, yeah, they still have Lamar Jackson. Whether he's going to be taking off to run or he's going to throw the ball, it's freeing up this offense to keep defenses on their heels to the point where now it's actually accelerated the development of Lamar Jackson. It's made him even a better quarterback because of Henry being on the team. And if you're going to give the MVP again to Lamar Jackson because he is having a good year, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to tear the guy down. He's having a great year, actually. But it is on the shoulders of Derrick Henry because he's there. You take Derrick Henry out of that offense, and Lamar Jackson is half the quarterback he is today. So that's my little spin on it. I don't think Lamar Jackson should be, and I do kind of agree with you that the argument has to be made that Derrick Henry has to be in the conversation, has to be for MVP. And then just because we're at the midpoint, these numbers are all well and good. Things change a lot in the NFL.
Yep.
So let's see how this continues. But as of right now, absolutely Lamar Jackson will be in the conversation. Baker Mayfield is another one. Baker Mayfield needs to be included in this because I understand, like, early on in the season, he was doing so well with his receivers, but now he's without them and still getting the job done in terms of quarterback play.
Right, and I think even you're talking about when it comes to that, that's what the argument we would always have with MVP. Like, hey, it's this team's doing great. This is the star of that team.
Right.
We also, if you do the Baker Mayfield thing, it's like this team would be garbage without him right now. Real kind of for what he's doing. So what he means to the team, he is their most valuable player. So that's always the argument you're going to have every season. We got a bunch of comments out there.
Right,
sorry, everybody. We're trying to get to them. Joe, light it up.
All right, we go. Christian tuning in. Appreciate you checking in on us. He says Giants going to make a historic run and make the playoffs as first team ever to start 2-7 and win the Super Bowl. Giants equals in. I would say you misspelled. You misspelled it. Giants equals out. I don't see that happening. We do appreciate the comment, and I love the confidence. I really do love the confidence.
It's very confident.
But it was 1 week of actually showing some kind of a flash of offense there. So we'll see. We'll see what the Giants can do. I don't anticipate them making a playoff run, especially look at your division. Washington playing, lighting the league up on fire on offense. You got the Eagles, what looks like they're starting to figure things out. So you're going to be behind those two teams throughout the rest of the year, and you're still going to try to make maybe the wild card at some point.
You had the percentage right there, Joe. If they get a win or a loss this week, what's the percentage there?
So, you got 1%.
1%.
If that doesn't strike,
playoffs.
if that doesn't put confidence in you as a Giants fan, nothing will, right?
Oh, yeah.
So currently they are 1%. If they lose, it's 1%, and if they win, it's 1%. So basically, nobody's given the Giants a chance to even come back and win this because we haven't seen any evidence of them putting together. Let's be honest.
I tell you, so that is the most epic hot take ever there of all time, right, Joe? That's got to be right.
Let's be honest. The Giants, they had 1 week of, what looked like a real NFL team on the field. Let's see if they can put this week in and continue to get better that way. If they do that, then you might have a shot, Christian, to be right. You might. But it's a long shot for that matter. Ty goes, great take, Joe, and I think he was talking about earlier when we were talking about MVP.
Yep.
Ty also said wide receiver will never win MVP simply because they are reliant on the quarterback, but running backs should be more relevant in voting and winning. And I agree. This is something that goes really easily overlooked because everybody automatically assumes a quarterback's going to get it. And we do understand quarterback is the most important position on the football field. It's the one position that's where the ball starts with him all the time. Every snap, the ball's going to the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Whether it be handing it off or throwing the ball afterwards, that changes. But that is important. However, you're right, Ty. We also agree, and I'm sorry, I'm speaking for you as well.
For me, Joe. But, that's fine. At least on this point, yes.
Yes. But what I'm saying is, I would just assume Jim agrees because it's more logical.
Well, because I even brought it up. Yes.
But my thing is that like any position should be in the conversation. Another guy, if you want to get real wacky, how about tight end? How about Trey? Man, I forgot the last name for the Cardinals. The tight end there, Trey McBride.
Yep.
Trey McBride has been having a stellar season and rivaling wide receiver numbers at the moment. Like, this guy's having one hell of a year. So, like, he could even be in that conversation because when you look at that Cardinals team, what do they got? Mm-hmm. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. We get it. He's a rookie. But even he's kind of struggling from time to time, catching the ball or just not getting the ball enough. But Trey McBride is a key player in that offense, and he's really what's helping drive that offense. So I would argue even him to be included in the conversation. What else we got? Ty just replied to Christian, no Manning, not going to happen.
Oh, yeah, with the comeback. Yeah, exactly.
Christian also, and then Christian replied, said, Ty Disco, I know I send these guys unrealistic Giants shit every week. Well, at least he's logical and understands it, right?
Yeah.
He just likes to see our reaction, I assume.
The meatloaf!
Exactly.
Fuck!
Ty goes, Baker almost beat the Chiefs with a tight end and running backs. Exactly. Like this is the part of the argument or debate or conversation that I feel like the NFL has to have with itself and anybody that votes. Like, you can't just give it to a guy because, oh, we know Lamar Jackson. Everybody knows Lamar Jackson. Is he having a great year? Yes. He deserves to be in the conversation this year. But it's more about because of what's around him. When you look at Baker, you look at, you could like Trey McBride, Derrick Henry himself, like all those guys, they have legitimate arguments to be considered MVPs because you look at their teams and it's like, what do they have right now? They're beat up. They're injured. One guy's taking a prominent role because there's nobody else around him. So, like, these are conversations that we have on the show all the time. Mm-hmm. But we need the mass media to have these conversations. We need the NFL and whoever's voting to, like, really think about this. Actually do some homework. It's really easy. You can go on. There's this thing called, a website that you can go on, and it gives you all the information you need, like stat-wise or anything that you want to break down, and you can make your own decision, but based on fact, like based on what they've produced this year. So I encourage you to do that. Christian said, so what you're saying is I have a better shot of you arguing me into the flag playoffs than Giants making NFL playoffs. Yes, that's what I'm saying. In fact, you're going to make the playoffs regardless, so you're good there. Ty goes McBride. Thanks, appreciate it. I didn't read that fast. So Ty also says, I think voting is like media members and such, but double check that. Yeah, we will double check that for you. But yeah, and I think when it comes to the awards, I think there's a panel. There's like a bunch of journalists there, and that's what it is, mostly journalists and guys that have been, inducted into this kind of, not really a secret society, but like a panel in itself. And those guys have conversations amongst each other before they actually make a vote on a player. But man, there's some bias there. There's definitely bias in there. And obviously, like, we even see it in the Hall of Fame voting when journalists impact who gets in, who doesn't. Because we've heard stories outside the room where guys were like, oh, well, I didn't vote for Terrell Owens because he was a douche to me in the locker room several times. Yeah. And you took it personal?
Right. Like, like that matters on the field and how they played. Yeah, totally.
Right. Do production. That's what your job is. Don't let feelings get involved.
I brought up Derrick Henry again, and that sparked a whole nother thing, which is great. We really love that. Keep the comments coming. We love the interaction, you guys. We are the most interactive talk show here on the internet.
Ty just said that's why it's all over the place, and it is always just like the favorite or who's hot at the moment. Exactly.
For MVP voting.
For yeah.
Right.
And I would say it's not just MVP voting. It's for every award because there's guys that, like, let's go to pass rushers, right? Pass rushers last year. Max Crosby didn't even make the top 4. And Crosby had you could argue, a better and more productive year as a pass rusher because TJ Watt won it. Mm-hmm. And Myles Garrett was in there, and I forgot who the third one was. But anyway, those guys, like Garrett to me is a guy who can do everything. He can play the run. He can rush the passer. He's dominating. TJ Watt is dominating, but different. I don't view TJ Watt as a guy who does a tremendous good job against the run. Like, if you run at him, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to move him, and he won't impact the play as much. So, but then you look at Crosby, and he had the most pressures out of anybody on that list. He created pressures. He had double-digit sacks. To my knowledge, at the moment, I don't remember exactly how many sacks he had, but with the sacks and the pressures and how much he impacted the game on a crappy team, I was baffled that he wasn't even in the conversation. So there are other positions, and you could make a case for wide receiver. You could make a case for anything that gets these awards. And a lot of times, the league, the people that vote for these awards, they just miss it. They completely whiff on a lot of these awards and who they give them to, just because, you're right, Ty, because a status in the league and everybody, whoever's hot at the moment, they're like, oh, well, he just had, look at like Hutchinson, I think one game this season before he got injured, had 5 sacks in the game. So like, let's just say he did that at the very end of the season. Now his name is going to be trending. It's going to be crazy. How could you not give it to Hutch? He had 5 sacks in one game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So he's right in that aspect too.
All right, last year, Max Crosby ended up with 14.5 sacks. Don't know exactly how many pressures he got, 90 combo tackles. But, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like they select kind of who they want in this scenario, and then, they roll with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny here that you bring up again defensive player of the year now, and this is their defensive player of the year. They think midseason, even though he's injured now, Aiden Hutchinson. Like you said, the way he was playing in the first half of the season, they give it the midseason to Aiden Hutchinson.
You can't.
Right.
You can't. The dude's literally not going to play the rest of the year.
rest of the year, but that's why they're saying if it ended now, I guess midseason this counts here.
Even if it ended,
yes.
I mean, come
right,
on.
No, I get it there. So that's why I knew it'd be debatable on this.
I
The
just
fact
gotta
that you
say-
put up Aiden Hutchinson, I thought
I have
was great.
to say-
Played right into it.
Whenever they make that argument, oh, if the season ended today, well, guess what? It doesn't. Like that whole argument, like, oh, if it ended today, these teams would be in the playoffs. If it ended today, this guy would be the MVP. But it doesn't. We got a whole other. We didn't even. We're not even close.
Right.
Like I hate that argument that they do every time just to make a point.
Right. So we'll get to Defensive Player of the Year, but one more thing here. I think with MVP, I think one other person that should be even in the talks right now has got to be Jared Goff right now too, with the way he's playing. If you look at rating here, he is the second best rating here out of quarterbacks with Lamar Jackson at 120.7. There's Jared Goff here, 115 QBR. He's got 14 touchdowns to 4 INTs compared to Lamar's 20 to 2. But again, very accurate too as well. If it was completion percentage, 74.9% completion percentage. And the team's winning too as well.
Yeah.
Second best record in the NFL, probably the best overall team in the NFL right now. So we'll see how the rest of the season develops and moves. But currently, right now, if you had to vote too, it's between these two guys. I wouldn't exactly always give it to Lamar here because he's got leading in a bunch of stats. But Jared Goff is.
Here's
there
what
as
I'm
well.
going to say about Goff. I kind of handpicked Goff before the season started, but don't be surprised if he's the MVP, right? Like kind of like real big announcement there. But honestly, with the team that's around Jared Goff, you obviously could make the case. Well, like look at all his weapons, look at what he has. Of course, he's having the numbers he's having.
Right.
Of course, he's as successful as he is, and I get that argument.
Yep.
But he has to be in the conversation because of the numbers he's putting up now. As far as that QBR, it's not a real stat. Like it's a number to gauge how productive that position's being, that player is being in the position. But it's not like yards, touchdowns, interceptions. So like I would argue to not even include QBR. Let's just go look at what they are. And when you look at that, like Joe Burrow has also got to be in the conversation.
Right.
This guy is right there, neck and neck with Lamar Jackson, 20 touchdowns. He has 4 interceptions, just 2 more than Lamar.
Yep.
And
I mean,
the yardage
that's
is there
struggling
too.
the first couple games too as well.
That's after two or even 3 weeks. Until T. Higgins came back, that offense was a shell of itself. It wasn't very good. And now with the immense production that Burrow has been stringing together, he's right back in the conversation, like hands down. And also, you got guys like Kirk Cousins that everybody seems to write off. Yes, he had a bad beginning of the year, just like Joe Burrow. But now you look at his what he's able to do now: 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 2,300 yards passing. Like he's got to be talked about more.
All right, let's get to some of the comments here. Everybody's lighting it up here. We appreciate it out there.
I love it. where'd we leave off at here? Christian says Dexter Lawrence producing arguably the best numbers from nose tackle of all time. You're leaving him out too. Yeah. Well, it's not us leaving him out of the convo. We said that there's a bunch of players that could be brought up and talked about, and Sexy Dexy is definitely one of them. But
Right.
my thing is there are so many guys that deserve to be talked about. But I mean, unless we kind of drill down and look at every single position, we're not going to be able to list them all.
Yeah,
It's
and that's
gonna
why
take
we
too
brought
long.
up again that
So-
this is a PFF.com list we're going
Yeah.
off of too. So again, that's why we're happy that you guys are interjecting and stuff like that. Absolutely,
Yeah.
because we can't even think of everybody's names too. I wasn't even thinking Dexter Lawrence right now. I know that he has been performing.
been
He's the
killing
best
it.
player for the Giants right
And,
now.
and I'm curious to know
tackles,
the amount
things
of
like that don't ever
pressures he
get
has.
thought of either.
Pressures. I'm
Yes.
curious to know the pressures that he has, because he's been making such an impact that forget the sacks. I know that's the kind of sexy stat that everybody wants to go to when it comes to D-line or pass rushers, but pressures it impacts every team. You get a quarterback off his spot, he can't throw the ball. Now he's rushing instead of throwing the ball down the field, and who knows, maybe it ends up becoming a sack for another player on your team, one of your teammates. But he impacts the game so much. Without him, you could argue that this Giants D-line would not be as good or even close to be as good as it is.
He's got 16 pressures this year so far
At D tackle.
at D tackle.
That actually is crazy when you think about it.
Yep.
Like, D tackles normally don't put up crazy numbers.
His max in a season 36. Last
on-
year
he's
he
on
had
pace.
25. He's on pace for that. Yes.
He's on pace, and he
Yep.
might even do better than that.
Yep. And he
And then-
currently has 9 sacks.
Dude's nearly got double-digit sacks. One more
Yep.
sack, he's in that category.
Right.
As a D tackle, not
Yes.
a D end.
Yes.
As a D tackle, which is crazy. And Christian, just so you know, like, D tackle will never get MVP. Just so you know, like, it just will never happen.
Or even defensive. If you're talking about defensive player of the year, then you're talking about it. No,
Even
you know
then.
what I mean? But it's
Even
tough.
then.
Well, it's tough. It's like almost like you said though. If you think of names, I'm sure if you said Dexter Lawrence or say Aaron Donald, if he was still playing, people were like, Aaron Donald, oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It's because the name's there.
Yeah, but even if
He
Aaron
played for the Rams, but I'm just saying.
even if Aaron Donald's in there, his conversation, he'll be in the conversation, but he would never get that defensive player of the year because the pass rushers reign supreme. Pass rushers are the big ticket item to sell to put asses to the seats, to sell tickets, to sell jerseys. Like, that's the flashy thing. I'm not arguing where he should be or should not be in the conversation. I'm just telling you, it'll never happen.
Right.
No D tackle will ever win, no matter how dominating they are. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, I'm curious, did Aaron Donald even win? I think he won the Defensive Player of the Year, right? Or not?
Yes, he's won it 3 times. At least AP poll. Yeah. He did put as a player of the year. He's won it 3 times.
He's won it 3 times.
3 times.
But that's not always at D tackle because he has the versatility. He played DN too
Right.
and
yeah,
would throw guys around.
Twice they called him. Well, once, twice they did it as D tackle, and one was as DN.
Mhm.
So
But no,
2020, 2018, and 2017.
that's the category. But in game, he switches all the time.
Yes, right.
So to me, like, he's not not just a D tackle. He's a guy that can play
Right,
both
right.
positions. Has been very productive in both positions. So that's where, again, it goes to, like, he's impactful as a D tackle, but also can play D end, and just as impactful.
And
So
he got
he's going to rack
defensive
up
rookie of the year.
So he's
as well.
going to rack up the stats anyway. Like, but to be strictly just a D tackle, Dexter Lawrence never goes to D end. Obviously, the guy's gigantic,
Right.
and he just makes an impact up the middle. But that will never happen to be just a strict D tackle. So I mean, that's the unfortunate thing.
I like that. Was that Christian that brought that up though?
Christian did say, Christian said that.
I love that. Thank
And
you,
then
Christian.
Ty
I love
replied to that
I love that.
and
That's a
said,
good one though, because
I'll
I think
take
They should be there in the conversation at the end of the year then. Because if he's got 9 sacks right now, too, I mean, Aaron Donald won Defensive Player of the Year with 9 sacks. Some of these guys are getting, like, his best year, he had 20. Right
Should
now,
be.
Dexter Lawrence is on pace for that right now. You
Should
know what I
be.
mean? So,
But here's the thing. Now you look at DNs and pass rushers. There's a lot of them that have more sacks than that.
yes.
They're going to
I
get all the love.
I get it. All right, what else we got?
But then Ty replied to Christian, said, "I'll take Quinnen Williams from the Jets over Lawrence," which I'm gonna push back a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, Quinnen Williams is a great D tackle in this league, one of the best D tackles in the league. However, I need impact. I need, not just production, but I need you to impact the game every single week. Quinnen Williams sometimes disappears sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't ever see Dexter Lawrence disappear. He's always becoming a menace in the backfield. So we got Christian said, "Oh my God, I was going to say Goff." Ty goes, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Okay. All right. I don't know how to respond to that.
I think because if we just say if this with this, if we say it so many times, yes, I get it.
Christian said Dan Campbell, the real MVP of that team, though. Nope, he's not. He's a coach. He could be the coach of the year. That's what he could be. He could never be MVP. He's the heart and soul of the team. If you take him away from that team, I don't think they are where they're at. Yes and no. Because he helped build that team. Now, if you say, oh, they just take Dan Campbell quits today, and that team is the way it is, it's going to be pretty hard to screw that up. What he's laid down for a foundation of that organization and the players that are instilled into that roster, there's a lot of leadership in there. There's a lot of big-time playmakers in there. I don't necessarily think that team falls apart and just can't win games. I think it would be really hard to screw that up as it is today. Now, when you look at like maybe over the long haul, then maybe that's definitely going to be a factor where depending on the coach that is, that replaces him, obviously that's going to, dictate some game time decisions and that nature, which, yeah, it might not be as good, might not be. But again, we're playing with, what ifs in that scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree with you too, because even look at Ben Johnson right now, is being considered for head coach in other places too. So
Ty goes, fuck QBR. That's an ESPN bullshit stat.
Yeah,
sorry for swearing. No, we appreciate it because you just made me say it.
We get
it's
that because it's a mathematical equation to kind of
Yeah.
gauge on how it's almost like an SAT score.
But
right?
it-
I mean, kind of
right.
you got to guess it the way
Right.
it kind of is.
It
because
doesn't matter.
It kind of gauges efficiency. Put it this way: Patrick Mahomes had 200 and something passing yards this last week, 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs.
Yeah.
All right, his QBR I think was like 118 something or whatever. Daniel Jones 119 I think 0.2 or something. His QBR was so better than Mahomes. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, like 160 something yards. Totally different stat
Right.
lines where Mahomes looked better,
Yeah.
but the efficiency rating
Right.
compared to
Right.
each other was comparable, and Daniel Jones had the hand up
Yeah.
in that one. I think at least they were close. If you want to put those stat lines next to each other,
Yeah.
I know
I
they were
just-
comparable.
So that's what fluctuates it, right? Like the QBR thing. Like I agree with Ty. Like I don't look into it too much.
Right.
I do utilize it as a kind of like a guide, but I don't actually include it in like overall production of what they've accomplished. Let's see. This is why Micah Parsons is overrated, and I know he's hurt this year.
I don't think Micah Parsons is overrated.
I don't-
like to
here's
an
the
extent
thing.
of what
He was, I'll say this, he was when he first got to the Cowboys because they used him in the wrong position. They put him at linebacker.
Right,
That's
right,
not his spot. D-end has always been his spot. And when they realized, they might have been listening to our show at the time because we were complaining about it.
Yeah.
When they realized, hey, let's just keep him at the end, he was just destroying offensive lines and wreaking havoc in the backfield. So I don't think he's overrated now, but you could make the argument if they left him at linebacker, you could make that argument.
But even in our mock draft, we had him going to the Giants, and that was the key spot. We were putting him in at DN, pass rusher for the Giants, and it would have fit perfectly that season. Instead, they didn't.
Yeah, just imagine that.
Huh? Yeah, I know, right? So many. If they listened to us in the draft,
that was Dave Gettleman, right?
Yes.
And Dave Gettleman is a defensive-minded guy. You would think that he would have been in love.
Even went that way.
He would have been in love with that pick, you would thought.
Yeah.
And no, he just, I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah,
that's why he's fired.
Had Dexter Lawrence now and Micah Parsons on the same team at this point right now.
I know. Let's see. Christian goes, I don't know the names. It was before my time, but did you say the same thing about Jimmy Johnson with Cowboys? About what? About Dan Campbell?
Would you say about that?
Oh, would you say?
All of a sudden, is that what he's saying? Would you say the same thing?
Oh,
about
would you
Jimmy
say
Johnson?
this? Maybe that's what he's saying. Would you say this same thing? Would you say the same? But did you say? He says, but did you say? But anyway, if Jimmy Johnson, Johnson, you got to remember too, different era of football, right? So that Cowboys team, if you take Jimmy Johnson out, currently what it was with Emmitt Smith, with Michael Irvin, with that big, huge, enormous offensive line, with Troy Aikman, Jay Novacek at tight end, that team was
Daryl
filthy.
Moose Johnston,
It was filthy. It was crazy. You take Jimmy Johnson out of that, yes, I would say the same thing. That team would have ran itself. That team was dominating everybody in that league. They had the biggest offensive linemen that were just mauling over people. And that's what allowed Emmitt Smith to basically walk his way into the end zone a lot of times.
That was actually proven, Joe. I mean, that's not even a scenario. That was proven because remember he got rid of Jerry Jones got rid of
Barry Switzer.
And Barry Switzer stepped right in and won again. He was there for head coach for another 4 seasons afterwards.
Right.
And they didn't lose a step really. They lost the conference championship the year after that the Jimmy Johnson and who gets rid of a head coach after you win back-to-back Super Bowls? Oh, like, are you a moron right now? Like, that's what I mean. I mean, fans would be livid right now. I mean, I don't know how.
I don't think Jerry Jones would be alive by now.
Right. But you lose the conference championship, you win the Super Bowl right after that year, and then lose in the divisional, and that's when the wheels start to fall off here. And then they go 6-10, and then he's out. See you later.
Christian, you're absolutely right. He said Barry Switzer or whatever his name is back then. Yeah, and that's the thing that it was
slid right in there.
It is what it is.
Put it on
right?
Cruise control.
We said, Ty goes, I love football talk. We appreciate you, man. We love you being here. Christian said, Jimmy created the team. Barry inherited the team, won the Super Bowl, but the whole team imploded, didn't they? The team imploded. But it was because Barry Switzer left. It was because everybody was leaving. Like there was guys being signed in free agency. They couldn't afford to keep everybody together. And that's kind of the biggest thing. Is the biggest challenge for organizations. Like that's what makes what the Patriots did so amazing. Is the fact that they actually literally created a dynasty where they might have lost a player or two, but they replaced him and he actually excelled. Like that they were able to sustain winning many championships with even in the kind of crazy free agency era that they were in, they still made it happen. They just still executed very highly. So that's what happened to the Cowboys. They just couldn't figure out a way to keep the ball rolling. Guys were leaving. Guys even retired. Emmitt Smith was gone. He ended up going to like Arizona Cardinals or something.
Well, Emmitt Smith, that last season that they went 6-10, was still a 1,000-yard rusher. Michael Irvin still 1,180 yards. Imagine Michael Irvin right now playing in the league right now, dude. Like this guy would be putting probably 1,500, or plus yards. I think on the season with the added games right now.
The way he is now,
the way the league is designed now with Michael Irvin. But actually,
in his current status, not prime.
No, in his prime.
Oh, well,
I'm not saying his current status like right now. Like that's preposterous right now.
If you look, well, exactly. That's why I was asking for clarification, Jim. I need the clarification.
But the one thing I would say, there's got to be a big asterisk. there's a big lockdown on drugs right now in drug testing. I don't think they'd had back then because he was a lot of those Dallas Cowboys players. A lot of cocaine going on in those games last night too. So I think a lot of things. They might have been some other suspensions going on.
There was a lot of payoffs.
So.
There was payoffs to keep him playing. But I would argue this: even with Irvin in his prime in today's era, he wouldn't do as well. And I'll tell you why. Because he committed a lot of offensive pass interference to catch those footballs.
Okay,
a lot of 50-50s and stuff like that. Yeah. And you can't do that. So he would get penalized like crazy. And even though he was a very physical and intense athlete, I just don't. He doesn't have the top end speed to beat everybody in today's league either. Like I could argue that. Like there's guys that are just crazy speed that you're not going to be able to run by, especially with Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin had decent speed for his size, but at this level or in this era, I would argue that Michael Irvin wouldn't have. He would have an impact, but he wouldn't have as good or as much impact as he did when he was playing with the Cowboys like he was. Let's get back to the comments here. Let's see. Christian said, that's where I was going with it, fellas. He also says, I could have won probably 5 Super Bowls in a row, but they got rid of Jimmy and started losing. Okay. Yeah, they got rid of Jimmy and started losing. Yeah, but even if they kept Jimmy, though, let's just say even if they kept Jimmy, they weren't going to be able to keep all those players. So, like, it would have definitely changed. It would have been a fun thing to see unfold. But you know what? It is what it is. History is history. Let's see. Ty said, oh, yeah? All right, Daniel, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the show. He said, replying to Christian, said, damn, you watch The Herd or a Skip Bayless fan? Christian goes, no, I don't. He goes, I don't even really know what happened. I was too young. I'm hoping I'm along the right track, though. No, you are.
No,
you're good. You're right.
It's all good.
Daniel said different types of owners. Absolutely different types of owners for each team. Replying to Christian, said, we are like the same age. Ty said, Michael Irvin in prime and now one great season and the busted because you know. Oh, because he would get busted by
Yeah.
I don't think. And then Daniel said, are you high? Look at Larry Fitzgerald. Yeah, look at Larry Fitzgerald. No, I'm not high. Michael Irvin, different receiver.
Yeah.
He was very, very, I don't think you realize how physical that dude was.
Yeah.
He literally would shove corners around like nothing to catch a contested ball. So like in today's NFL where they're so freaking crazy about penalties, like it would be so blatant that they would be calling it left and right. And Larry Fitzgerald was just a better wide receiver all around. Like Larry Fitzgerald ran great routes, had amazing hands, and for his size was actually had pretty decent speed too. Like that's what set him apart. Same with Larry. No, I didn't see that when Larry Fitzgerald played. Larry Fitzgerald was a cleaner wide receiver.
He was a cleaner. Yeah, I'm looking at Anquan Bolden, and if you want to talk about the Arizona Cardinals, and something like that, Anquan Bolden was physical. He was more of those physical type of wide receivers.
He was a freak.
Yeah,
he was a literal freak. That dude was so big, so strong, and so fast. He was like the cheat code in the game when he in his prime. It was insane what he was able to accomplish, especially with a Cardinals team.
Yep,
like that is insane.
Wow. All right, man. Absolutely. Dude, this conversation is going crazy. I love it, though.
I like the comments, guys. Keep it coming. We do appreciate you stopping in and dropping the opinions, dropping the questions. Yeah. I mean, it's been amazing. Yeah, and Daniel, now that you're here, I don't know if you're already a subscriber. We would really appreciate it if you head over to YouTube for us and hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. We know you're here, and spread the word. Spread the word.
All right, so we covered Defensive Player of the Year and MVP. That's it. All right,
that's so as far as we got.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, though, Joe. They've got right now Jaden Daniels, and I think you can't really disagree with that one at this point. What he's done for this Washington Commanders team right now, commanding them and to the lead of their division, and what they're doing offensively on top of this one. But I can see that him definitely being offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah. Ty just agreed with the Larry Fitzgerald comment, and Daniel is a Bills fan. Everybody, he said, "Go Bills."
All right, there
he is part of the. He is part of the Bills Mafia.
That's right.
Hashtag know it all.
Exactly. And that's the thing too is you can make the argument. Okay, so offensive rookie of the year, Jaden Daniels has definitely got to be leading that conversation. But now you have to also put in Brock Bowers, who's having a crazy year as a rookie, and not just because he's a rookie, but also he's actually on pace to crush every tight end category as a rookie ever in the NFL history. So he's definitely got to be part of the conversation. And I mean, the other part of this too is it's a offensively this kind of award is definitely like one of these things where it most likely will go to a quarterback, right? Because even though they're rookies, but if you have a halfway successful rookie quarterback, 9 times out of 10 they're going to win it. Like none of these other guys that should be in the conversation or might even be close to winning it, I don't think they're going to get a real chance to win it. Whether they have a groundbreaking NFL record crushing type of year, they still might not even win it just because the quarterback is more important.
Oh, definitely. What I thought was interesting here is as I'm looking at next gen stats too, they gauge separation, and Brock Bowers has 3.8 yards of separation here, which is up in the top tiers too, along with Jaden Reed, Zay Flowers type of guys. Yeah. So I think that's an intriguing stat line here that they put out for him. But 2 touchdowns on the season, 580 yards. Yeah,
a lot of people,
especially for that position, if you're looking positional wise.
And a lot of people were already, before the season started, they were assuming that maybe Marvin Harrison Jr., because he was the only go-to weapon for the Cardinals at the moment, was going to probably be one of the front runners of this award. But I don't. He's doing good, but I don't think he's doing anything crazy. So that's one player to kind of bring up. But like, there's other guys that they're having decent years, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to make up the difference in the second half of the season to be part of that conversation. Where I think as long as Jaden Daniels doesn't get injured, and miss significant time, he's on pace to just easily like streamline and win that award. Like there's not going to be any competition, even if the argument can be there for other players.
All right, we've got a couple more out there too. What do we got?
All right, Daniel said, hey, the Jersey Giants could have had Jaden Daniels. Well, I know Jimmy, who's a Giants fan, would have loved for that to happen, but he wasn't going to go past that second pick.
No.
So I don't think they could have had him.
And it's not like they would have traded with the Commanders or anything like that either. So, I mean, that wouldn't.
I mean, and vice versa, right? The Commanders ain't going to call you up and
like, hey, let's make this happen. But I like what they were thinking, though. Yes. If they were going for Drake May, that was my guy, and then my number 2 was Jaden Daniels. So I would have been happy with either one. We didn't happen to do it.
No, it just couldn't. It just didn't. It wasn't going to happen because none of those teams were willing to trade down. They threatened.
They were looking for the same issue.
They wanted you to overpay immensely for those picks. And honestly, like as a Raiders fan right now, I would have gladly paid them 3 first-rounders at this point. Hindsight's 20/20, but I really wanted Jaden Daniels too.
Yes.
So
Yep.
But we'll see what happens going forward with these teams. Ty said MVP and rookie go to quarterbacks. Right. We kind of already knew that. But also you can't dispute what Daniels is doing with the Commanders. Completely flip the organization. And that's what a really good quarterback can do for you. They're not ready. Like the Commanders, they could easily make the playoffs as it stands today. Right? Like they got to continue winning games, but they can make the playoffs and be 1 and outs, and still you can say, hey, we didn't even anticipate making the playoffs, and we did it. We overachieved. Now let's continue to build around Jaden Daniels and this defense to prepare for next season to make a real big push. So you're absolutely right. He's flipped the stigma of the Commanders.
And that helps when you get a guy like that, though, too, because also having the cap space. We talk about the two different teams here. Washington Commanders. Yes, they looked like they were a rebuilding team. They needed a quarterback on top of it. They got the young quarterback. But with the fact that he is projecting the way he is right now, and the fact that they have already made the right moves with cap space, they are in a better position than, say, like the Giants. The Giants don't have any cap room at all. They just cut McLeod here to the corner, and it saved them like $900,000, and they're still in debt. They still have issues, don't have cap space to do anything with it. So until like Daniel Jones comes off the books or something else, they're in a limbo still. So they're in a worse position to what the Commanders have done, and the Commanders have been a better team than the Giants in most recent years. So it goes to show you with an organization that's just absolutely run better from the office position.
Yeah, you know what's kind of funny, too, is like I know they don't get much love, but offensive linemen could be part of this, too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could make the argument that Talise Fuaga with the Saints, who's having a phenomenal year. The team might not be, but he is as a rookie, offensive tackle. Like, those guys, too, they deserve love. Like, you draft an offensive lineman, they come in and they just don't allow pressures. They don't allow sacks. Like, those type of guys, you need to bring them up.
All right, we got a bunch out there.
Yeah,
What
we
got?
do. Not
Comments,
that many,
comments,
though.
rolling
We're
here.
getting there.
All right.
So as Christian said, Malik Neighbors would easily be Offensive Rookie of the Year if he had a quarterback. Possibly. And I say possibly because as gifted as Neighbors is, he's the only real legitimate playmaking receiver the Giants have.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of teams would, if that was to happen, right? And I'm not, he definitely would rack up numbers for sure, but it would be capped in a way where teams would start taking notice so much so that they would be shifting coverage, double teaming Neighbors, limiting him to the big play numbers that he would otherwise get if he had a just as good or even above average type of receiver option on the opposite side. That way it takes some of that pressure off. But I get what you're saying, but that Giants offense needs more playmakers on that offense to free up Neighbors or at least have the ability to. Let's see. Ty replied to Christian, said, nope, missed a game, not happening. He missed one. Missed the game. You're done.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Christian,
I'm happy when I'm playing.
Christian said, but as of right now, with what Jaden Daniels has done and flipped the Commanders from what they were to what they are doing now in 1 year, he's the only option, I think. Currently, yes. Like we said, bearing an injury, a dip in production, something of that nature that could derail it, that's it. Like if Jaden Daniels keeps doing what he's doing and for the rest of the season, you can't argue otherwise. You just can't, especially for a rookie quarterback to come in. This doesn't happen. I think the majority of NFL fans out there are getting, the idea that, if you take the best option at quarterback, you're guaranteed he's going to pan out and we're going to turn this team around. It's an illusion the last couple of years. Jaden Daniels, in his pursuit of going for the Rookie of the Year, and as great of a player he is, has turned this organization and its hopes and dreams around. Last year was C.J. Stroud.
Right.
C.J. Stroud come in his rookie year, turned that freaking organization around, and he's a really good quarterback and is their future. That doesn't happen every year. I just hope that fan bases understand that every year isn't like this. You're never going to get it right the first time, and the Cleveland Browns will tell you that.
Right. And last year he won Offensive Rookie of the Year, C.J. Stroud. So
right. I mean, but it's a rarity. I just want to emphasize that this does not happen. So next year, the way it's projecting next year, the quarterbacks coming out next year is a huge dip in value, a huge dip in a value quarterback that can maybe turn your team around. Like the guys that are coming out, there might be a couple exceptions, but it's going to be based on development. It's going to be based on how fast they can, get their feet underneath them in the NFL and kind of become that next guy for the whatever respected organization. Mm-hmm. But it's a big if, because unlike this past draft where there was a plethora of quarterbacks that everybody's seen could be starters, you look at Jaden Daniels, starter. Michael Penix Jr. could have been a starter, but Atlanta drafted him. So that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had Bo Nix.
Yep.
JJ McCarthy was kind of flirting with the starting thing, but he's not ready. So
Right.
like
Right.
that past draft is just crazy loaded with talent. This upcoming one, not so much. Daniel says that's because you played Jersey Cutlets and won the game last year. So funny, Dan. You also said thing is you need an O-line first before you need a quarterback. But that I feel like was the old ideology. Now teams are like, hey, we need to start somewhere. You're right, Dan. By the way, I agree with you. But teams aren't doing that now. They need to find that quarterback. They're going to draft that quarterback high and then figure it out after that pick. Like they're going to say, oh, well, we're going to sign free agents to kind of Band-Aid the situation, or we're going to take another offensive lineman in the second round, third round, what have you. So I do agree with you. You're right. Like you do need a solid offensive line to help protect them and help them develop that way. But in today's NFL, it's all about quick. We just need an answer at that position. Let's go get it, and then we'll figure it out afterwards. He also says that you can have all the playmakers you want, but if you can't protect the quarterback, you can't do shit. And he's right. You're right. We're not saying you're wrong. You're definitely right. It's just a lot of times that's just not how teams think now. They're just trying to iron out that quarterback and then build around him. Ty goes, I think that in 10 years, we will look back and say, damn, that 2024 rookie class was one of the better ones. And you're right for quarterback, obviously. Christian says, just look at the quarterbacks who were supposed to be surefire guys who were supposed to turn an organization around, and they are on the verge of being benched or already got benched. Yeah. And that happens every year.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is like, a lot of people were even saying like in Atlanta when Atlanta drafted Desmond Ridder in the third round. I know it was a third round pick, but they're like, this could be our guy for the future.
Right.
That imploded.
Yep.
Now we'll wait and see like if that guy could ever get another shot, but he's still young. Daniel says doesn't matter the quarterback if you don't have an offensive lineman. If you don't have offensive lineman, you're screwed basically. Yeah. Hence the Jersey Giants. But Dan, honestly, the Jersey Giants neglected that position for quite some time, and they didn't have the quarterback the whole time either. Like they didn't have either answer, so they neglected offensive line or establishing that line first, like to your point. But then they also didn't have an answer at quarterback either. So
right.
You kind of got to pick and choose when you have the opportunity. You have to take the quarterback. If you are 100% convinced this is our guy, you have to take him. I get what you're saying. We agree with what you're saying.
Yes.
But it's just not reality in today's NFL. Everybody's scrambling to find that quarterback because quarterbacks don't, typically slide in the draft. Good ones anyway, that people anticipate. They don't just fall. And like the Tom Brady thing where that dude got picked in the third day, that is a case 1 in a million shot. That just doesn't happen. So it's crazy. But like today's NFL, it's just one of those nutty things that teams are trying to just build as they go. And if they can get that quarterback, they're going to do it. Ty said Christian Dickinson teams need more than a quarterback, a great or good. Can that goes in top 10 picks, usually goes to a bad team with bad ownership. One player can't turn it around. Right, one player can't. And that's why it's the ultimate team game. Like we all know that. Like every level of the roster has to work together and they all have to be upgraded. You have to get better every single year. And if you don't, that's why your team keeps picking high in the first round all the time. And you're right. There are some really badly run organizations, and then the better ones, they stay at the bottom. They continue to add talent still, and they still relevant every year. Daniel said, how about the Steelers? Yeah, the Steelers. How about the Steelers? I mean, they're one of the some people might say surprise. Some people didn't anticipate them being as good with the the lack of productivity from Justin Fields in Chicago. People think it might not have worked. And then hand in hand with Russell Wilson, we were kind of on the opposite side of that argument, thinking that Russell Wilson did a pretty decent job in Denver his last year, coming over to the Steelers. Thought that was kind of like a nice matchup there. And so far, he's proving us right. Like he's the guy, at least for this year. Now going forward, that's where that quarterback conversation is going to be had, is what are the Steelers doing after this year? You have Justin Fields for this year, Russell Wilson for this year. After this year, you got to make a decision. Are you going to pay money and keep Fields because he's younger and make him your starter going forward? Or are you going to really invest in Wilson, possibly give him a 3-year deal until you find that answer? Like that's going to be the difficult thing for the Steelers. Not so much this year, but and you're right. Daniel also said the Falcons are playing a Band-Aid quarterback. Well, Band-Aid quarterback, if you want to label him that, he's still really good. Like the stats show you the production on the field. Yes, don't get me wrong. Every quarterback isn't going to have a phenomenal week every single game, and he's had some bad games, of course. But he's doing his job for the most part. Like they're in that division, they're winning games. So we'll see what happens with that team. Daniel said, but the 1-2 championships with a guy that had Down syndrome.
Retard alert.
He's talking about the Giants again. Is that what he's talking about? What is
Yeah, I think so.
Probably.
I think he went to the Giants.
He's got to
thing.
see. That's why he's got to be down the Giants. See, there's those Bills fans.
We're the only team that actually plays in New York still.
Okay. All right. How did Scott
all right.
Norwood work out for you in that Super Bowl, huh? What's your record in Super Bowls right now? There you go. So shut the F up.
Well, it struck a nerve, Jimmy, huh? It struck a nerve in you.
I'm spitting
Got you
facts.
all fired up.
Spin facts.
Got you all fired up.
All right, so we had a guy with Down syndrome, you're saying, but you had Jim Kelly, okay? It's 0 for 4. There you go.
True.
Next.
True. Dan said they had a line that protected. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yes.
That argument is, I understand you keep bringing it up, but like, we're not disagreeing with you.
We're
but
not
this is
disagreeing
just
about
how
it,
it is.
the whole offensive line, but everybody knows that.
Because
Okay.
everybody knows they need to try to find that guy.
Yes.
So Christian said Saquon Barkley is a,
Possible
I don't know what that,
upset in playoffs.
I don't know what he meant to say there.
What?
It's weird. He says it's got a number 5, says tool player, utility player. Is that what you're trying to say?
5 tool player, maybe?
5 tool player? What the hell's
Maybe.
that?
I don't know. They talk that kind of stuff in baseball normally, right? The guy with the many tools, he's the full toolbox.
You can tell I don't watch baseball.
I tell you what, though, Saquon, yeah, he's the main factor for that team. I think if you're looking at Philadelphia right now, and if they don't have Saquon Barkley, and this goes against my first original argument, because I thought they could have been okay with keeping DeAndre Swift before and still having a good running game and still do well.
Yeah.
But the way Saquon's playing right now, he's playing like a bat out of hell right now. If they do not have him, they are not where they are right now, and really the offense would be struggling more than it is right now. He's a key factor to what they're doing.
He's a different running back than Swift, though.
Yeah, he is. That's what I'm saying. It is. I
Like
thought they were going to
Barkley-
be okay with Swift, but what Barkley adds to this team is astronomical.
It is astronomical, but I still feel like the Eagles would have been somewhere where they are anyway now. Like, even if they had, even let's just say they kept Swift. He's not as good as Saquon Barkley, obviously. That offense wouldn't have been as good, like to your point, but I still think the Eagles would have been scraping some wins and getting to where they need to be second place right now.
I get
they
there.
still would be
I
second
get
place.
that. Okay.
But Barkley, and if this doesn't show the Giants organization that you screwed up, I don't think they'll ever get it in their heads, because what he's doing, he's actually more productive with the Eagles. And obviously it goes to like their offensive line's really good and stout. But Barkley by himself, he has a mindset, a mentality right now where he wants to prove to the league, not just the Giants, but he wants to prove to the league that I am number one in this league. I am the guy. I'm not going to get injured. That's the other thing too. Giants had to deal with his injuries all the time.
Yeah.
So far, he looks very healthy. He looks spry. He looks like a completely different type of player. Christian said Dave Gettleman for the 2018 draft. He's referring to a past comment.
Yep.
Ty said sleeper teams for possible upsets and playoffs. We're getting there, Ty.
We are.
But
we are.
we're trying
getting
to
there. We're trying to
get you
finish off
guys
this
involved
list.
at the same
Enough
time.
talk about offensive linemen then, I guess. We'll be done, right?
Multiple Giant coaches were looking at replacing the quarterback, and John Mara wouldn't let them get a guy in when Eli could still be the guy and have a young guy learn behind them. He still wanted to ride the Eli train, and we missed our shot. That may be true, but if there's any kind of a teaching lesson out there, look at the Green Bay Packers. To your point, Christian, that would have been the smart thing to do. Get the quarterback behind Eli Manning. You don't have to throw him to the wolves, and he doesn't have to play right away, but he can learn at least for 1 year under Eli, and then put him in the following year. So yeah, you're right. Daniel's laughing his ass off, and Christian said, "No, fellas, read on."
Okay.
He said he still wants us to be.
Read all the comments. No.
I think we got to the end.
All right,
I think now we can get back on track here.
Yes. There we go. So there you go. Read on. So we did offensive rookie of the year. Again, we've said a bunch of different ones here, but again, nobody argues with Jaden Daniels. All right. Defensive rookie of the year per Football Focus. Right, that's what I'm doing right now. Right, I can't even forget right now though.
I like where you're headed at.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what website I even looked at right now at this point. Jared Verse. How about that from the Rams?
For what, offensive rookie?
Defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that could work.
Well, I think that's definitely somebody who
He's
has
having a
really
good year.
kind of stepped up right here and jumped right into that spot to where, again, a defense without a pass rusher like Aaron Donald that they had before and things like that, looking for that next guy to step up, he's kind of just placed himself right in there too as well. I think he's a good automatic guy to throw right in there off the top of our heads here too. I was also thinking of whatchamacallit I want to say for Minnesota, but I can't even recall his name right now. But yeah, I mean that I don't disagree with that one at all.
Right.
You guys let us know in the comments what you think you might jar my memory to on some of these ones. Defensive player of the year. I'm going to move on so we can get to the next segment. Now, comeback player of the year.
Otherwise, we're not
comeback
getting
player of the year is always kind of an award that, again, it's debatable a lot of times because we saw Joe Flacco end up being like a comeback player of the year, right? And well, okay, this guy just showed up off the couch and whatever and played and did well, I guess. But, we also talk about guys that coming back from injuries, like, and they even changed the rules a little bit so where like a guy like DeMar Hamlin could be considered a comeback player because he survived, a horrific injury here that could have ended his career and potentially his life. So they've got Joe Burrow listed as comeback player of the year, which I kind of get to an extent too because the injuries that he has had, last year a major injury, and now coming back from that, it looked a little sluggish at the beginning of the season, but we talked about this earlier on in the segment. Now it seems like an hour and a half ago about potentially MVP with his stats that he's put up right now. Completion percentage, yardage,
he's
touchdowns.
right up there in that
He's
conversation.
up there in that conversation. So comeback player for Joe Burrow, I can see that as well, but I'm sure there's like a few others in there, though. I think still we can kind of sprinkle in there as potential comeback.
My thing too is
players,
the NFL had a conversation about the comeback player award, about who deserves it. Should a player that's injured a year prior come back next year, and if they play well, like they deserve it. There was that argument that they shouldn't be. Because, they were injured, they come back. We all know that they were decent players, and they just happen to come back and play a whole year, and now they deserve it. So that's the thing. Is like when you got to be careful with that injury idea. Come back from a major injury. He came back from a wrist injury, and then he also had a leg issue. But that was injury related. We all know Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow's a really good quarterback. So just because he got injured, came back and did the same thing we already knew he was going to do.
Right.
To me, that's not comeback player worthy. Like, for me anyway, in my opinion, the comeback player of the year award goes to a person that had a dip in production a year ago. And then all of a sudden, the following year played out of their minds. That to me makes the most sense.
Yeah. I get that.
And if you can't find that player, like there's going to be an exception. If you can't find that player and it doesn't exist that year, then you might have to go to catastrophic injury, come back, and for them to do well the following year. But
For that even stat, along there, I've got two different scenarios here. One, I'm going to bring up the fact that you have to look at, especially we're talking midway. We're talking midway point right now. You have to look at Sam Darnold and what he's doing with the Minnesota Vikings. A guy that was written off, that drafted
Makes
by
a
the
lot of
Jets,
sense.
thrown in at the starter situation, had his ups and downs, showed that he had a little something still, but again, kind of deemed that guy who's reckless with the ball, turnovers, things like that. Backups for a few different teams, comes back here as the starter for the Minnesota Vikings. Still 17 touchdowns to 7 INTs. INTs are, a little higher than I'd wish right now. That's just only as recent here, but still 107 QBR. Again, a lot of people don't give a shit about that stat, but again, playing well. He's leading a team right now, you know what I mean? And really, keeping them in contention. He's not losing the game for them like you kind of knew of Sam Darnold. He is a changed man. So I think he fits the criteria of a guy that is a comeback player of the year. And then ultimately, if you want to talk about a guy even that was injured and even having a down year, I would say, I could be wrong on this, so you can check me from last year, but I would say even Justin Herbert right now. And just let me see, look at it this way and look at the fact that he's playing really clean football too. On top of it, with 10 touchdowns and 1 pick,
but he won't get
1,700 and something yards though. So I think that's interesting for him to be in this scenario. Right
I don't see him being comeback player of the year. It would have to be
right.
next
Yeah, you
year.
said something. Yeah,
It would have to be next year. Like if he had a dip in production this year, because let's face it, that offense doesn't fit him, and it's because they don't use him enough.
Mm-hmm.
If they used him, he could have a really good year, but because of the way that offense is orchestrated, like that's going to be the dip this year, and maybe next year if they change their offensive mentality, then he could have a breakout year next year and be a comeback player year next year. That makes a lot of sense for next season for sure.
Right.
But the other thing too is let me read some of these things. He goes, imagine what the Eagles line and Barkley would look like with Jason Kelce running it. I think it would be good. Like, I don't think it would be that drastic of a difference, but it would definitely be an upgrade for sure.
It definitely helps with those tush pushes right now.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, my thing too with Jason is that he's the quarterback of the offensive line. So I think where Jason would upgrade that O-line is his knowledge of the game and him calling the protection calls up front for blitzes and of that nature. Not necessarily the run game, but just to have him to pick out who's coming, who's going, and then how to shift the blocking of the line over. That would make a lot of sense. Ty said, I can agree with that. Heard his name a lot. Ty also said, is Joey Porter Jr. rookie? No, that was last year.
Yep.
Joey Porter, I would never consider him rookie of the year at all, or defensive rookie of the year. Daniel said, free safety Harrison. Which Harrison? There's more than one in the league. So, trying to figure that out. Also said that Ty goes, Aaron Rodgers snapped his Achilles. I'm not a fan, but I mean, he did come back from that. He came back from the injury. You're correct, but he's not having a really great year. He had a couple of good games. One being the best game so far of the season, but beating the Texans, but not comeback player of the year worthy. He said Najee Harris. Now, Najee Harris is an interesting name.
Mm-hmm.
Najee Harris makes a lot of sense because Harris he's been good. He hasn't been great. And this year has been running all over defenses every single week, just refuses to go down. And you could make a case right now for Najee Harris, for sure. Mm-hmm. Ty also said, Sam Darnold, definitely comeback player of the year. That's the exact reason for the award.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
A guy that was shunned by the league. He'll never be a starter again. And Kevin O'Connell's like, hey, no, we want you to give it a shot over here.
Yep.
And look at what he's doing.
Yep.
He's not blowing anybody away, like having like averaging 300 passing yards and 4 touchdowns a week or anything like that. But he's doing what's needed to win games and is having a better than anticipated season because nobody thought and nobody gave him a chance to be a starter.
Right.
So now Minnesota does, and they're being very efficient with him. And hey, look at Sam. Look at what he's doing. Oh, yeah, but that's because he has Jefferson. That's because he has Jordan Addison. That's because of you can only make so many mistakes. The guy's playing well. Just give him some credit here.
Yeah.
And do I think it's going to be enough? We'll see going down the stretch if they can make a difference, get into the playoffs and whatnot. But he is doing well. He is doing well.
Yep.
Daniel said, isn't that the case for most rookie quarterbacks once they leave playing for a New Jersey team? Oh, Jesus.
Here we
Another
go
shot.
Man.
Daniel
Are you
said,
drinking right now?
Daniel said, Harrison, the free safety from Minnesota.
For defensive player of the year?
For, I think he's saying comeback player of the year.
Comeback player of the year.
Yeah, he's not. I don't. Honestly, I don't see. I don't like utilizing the injury thing, and then you come back and play the same way that you normally play. Like that's the thing. Is like I get it. You came back from an injury, but you were already good. You're gonna be good again
once you're healthy.
Once you're healthy.
Right.
So,
yeah,
like to me, that's not comeback player worthy.
Right.
Unless you have to pick a player like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it is an amazing feat that some of these athletes come back from major injuries and then return to at least the same way they played, and then maybe even better.
So he says I'm drinking down there, so that explains a lot. So there you go. Any more comments before I just say let's get into
we're done.
Yeah, let's get into the last one here, and it's Coach of the Year. They've got Dan Quinn right now as Coach of the Year. If you named it right there at midseason awards, which I couldn't argue it just because
I can.
Again, it's no, you obviously can to an extent, but if somebody said Dan Quinn, I could say okay, just because
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, because this team, again, wasn't expected to be this good right now. And I think some of it is Dan Quinn. But, again, when you have that quarterback that you did draft that elevates your team like that, that's a big factor in itself.
It is.
But surprisingly enough, too, with that defense, I don't think that defense
that's what he was brought in for.
And that's what he was brought in for. And that's why they're playing better than I expected, at least at this point.
True.
Still not a top 5, but still playing better with the personnel that they have right now. And then making moves like they just grabbed Marshawn Lattimore, too, to try and help that. And he sees he's going to be that dog-ass player for their team to help them out here in this one. So I think that's only going to get better, which I can understand that. But Coach of the Year again, maybe Dan Campbell again with the way this team is. But you also said,
I don't think so.
Maybe you take Dan Campbell out. You can maybe put anybody else in that position
but
with the players that they have.
I mean, you can make the argument that Dan Quinn doesn't deserve it because because you were lucky to get a quarterback of what Jaden Daniels been able to do. That's really what turned that team around. If you just had an average quarterback, you still suck. Like that team is not winning many games, maybe only 1 or 2 at this point. So is it because of the head coach? No, it's more because the offensive coordinator or the quarterback that they got has really kind of changed that team around. So you can make the case for that. Dan Quinn, I do think deserves to be in the debate, but also Kevin O'Connell.
Yep.
Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings team has been written off. They're like, oh, you don't have a starter anymore. You don't have Kirk Cousins. You got nothing at the quarterback position. So they drafted J.J. McCarthy, but everyone's like, oh, well, he's going to be a starter. But with a rookie, you never know what's going to happen. Sam Darnold ends up beating out J.J. because he's ready to go. And everyone's like, oh, your team's not going to win a game. Like, a lot of people didn't think the Vikings were going to be any kind of relevancy at all.
Right.
And they're proving everybody wrong. So, like, you could make the argument that Kevin O'Connell could be Coach of the Year, too.
Right.
You know, there's always a few candidates out there that you're like, yes, that makes sense. We should definitely talk about those guys. Dan Quinn, Kevin O'Connell. Is there anybody else that, like, is kind of, like, up there for Coach of the Year?
I think there's a dark horse one, and it's depending
Okay.
looking at right now, but then also looking at potential if they continue winning ways as the season moves on, and that is head coach Jonathan Gannon for the Arizona Cardinals, with the way the Cardinals are kind of playing. Again,
Yeah,
another team
that makes sense. Yep,
that
I like that.
hasn't, it wasn't expected to do much here again.
Yeah.
Yes, they did get Marvin Harrison Jr., which that we knew that would help their
Mm-hmm.
offense, but what they're doing with some of the points and then even defense with not really great players all together too
Mm-hmm.
as well, putting some wins together and then also putting up points, and they're kind of that hidden dark horse threat in turning that ball club around, leading the division right now. So again, if you wanted to grade it right now with them taking the lead in the division, I think that's a key factor.
I think, Jim, that is the exact coach that should win it if they continue.
If they continue,
If
right?
they continue their winning ways and their competitive ways, even if they don't make the playoffs, I would still give it to Gannon because that team. Nobody, I don't care who you are. There's no way you thought that team was going to be a winning team. There's no way you thought that team was going to be competitive. I thought for sure that defense was going to struggle. I thought for sure, okay, they got Marvin Harrison. That's nice. They got James Conner in the backfield. They got their rookie and Trey Benson in the backfield. Kyler Murray's coming back. Trey McBride is coming back his second year. Okay, that's great, but that's it. Like their offensive line isn't crazy good. Their defense had a lot of questions on it, but they're overachieving. They are playing so well. They're playing such good football that makes too much sense right now. That really does.
Right. Here we go. We've got the comments. I think people are in agreement.
Yeah,
The
Dan.
people have spoken.
Christian mentioned Dan Campbell. Then Ty said the Vikings coach. I like O'Connell. Christian said. Ty goes, I knew you were going to say Gannon. Ty said Arizona is a sneaky team. And Christian said, hell no. I thought they were going to be trash.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Right.
that there's no way people anticipated that team. Unless you're a delusional Cardinals fan. You're like, oh, this is the year. Yeah.
Right.
Like Cowboys fans.
Right. There you go. So there you go. We finished that segment after an hour and a half or so, but we
Great
love
job,
the comments.
everybody.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate
everybody
it.
out there. We're going to roll through this one quick. Again, like the past couple weeks here, I've
Love
been
it.
doing my milk carton missing player of the week. I've been keeping it to quarterbacks, and I'm going to do it again this week. It is Trevor Lawrence right there on the milk carton, Joe.
I think I found him, though. I don't think he's
you
missing
found him,
anymore.
Right? No, you found him. He's
I
still
did
laying
find
on
him.
the ground
He's in
there.
Jacksonville. I figured it out.
He is there, and which is tough for him, though. There he goes. Trevor Lawrence, completion percentage last week, 51.6, 169 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 INTs, and rating, even though you guys don't want to hear it, still 40.9. Not very good again. Not any real production. Like you said, and when you look at it, it's really not even numbers, it's eye test. And you said making pivotal mistakes in those moments that matter, and that's what you saw even last week.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing too is when you look at how bad that team overall is playing, and then Trevor Lawrence who got a huge contract, by the way, extension,
Right.
not living up to it at all. And this is why teams are so cautious about giving a younger player a big long-term deal, especially at that quarterback position.
Right.
Because, did you do enough to prove that you deserve this? But guess what? Just like a lot of teams that have that or at least think they have the answer at quarterback, when it comes time to the contracts, what are you going to do? I know that you might want to move on from them, but do you have an answer behind that player? No. 9 times out of 10, you don't. So it's like they're forced to give that big contract, and they did. And now Trevor Lawrence not performing well. The team isn't performing well. Doug Peterson is not performing well as a head coach, which is crazy to think when he first got there, he was the answer. He was figuring things out on offense. They were doing well. And then this year has been just absolute disaster. Trevor Lawrence, we found him, but he's still missing from the football field. He's just not showing up to practice. He's not showing up in the meetings, it seems like. We don't know what's going on with that guy. A big contrast from what the Jacksonville Jaguars fans was promised.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. So there you go. There's my missing player of the week.
I'm going to take
no
this
surprise
opportunity
there.
right now.
Yeah.
We have Dan.
Go ahead.
We know that Dan is a new know-it-all right now. We
That's
appreciate you chiming in, Dan. Been amazing. If anybody out there that's new, even if you're just kind of just watching the show, listening to the show, what have you, if you could do us a huge favor, head over to YouTube for us. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up while you're there. Share it to all your friends and family members. And don't forget to comment down below. We react to everybody. We want to include you guys in the show. You guys are the major part of the show. This is what it's all about, is the interactiveness. We're the best and most interactive NFL talk show you're going to find. We want you guys to be the voice of the show and keep bringing the heat. We love this. Sometimes it gets overwhelming, but we're on track here. We're doing well.
And if it goes 3 hours, hell, at least it was entertaining. We had a hell of a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun for us.
I don't really care about that.
I don't
part,
like
so
to listen
we're
to
good.
Jimmy talk that much every single week by myself. I need other people in here.
That is true, and the same thing too. It's like Joe brings up a lot of points, but when we have other people bringing up points on top of it too, it's always
a lot
nice
more
to hear.
fun.
Right. All right, so here we go. So this is a scenario we decided to go through too, because now they're actually putting up the playoff picture the way it would be right now if the whole world ended right now, or the league stopped right now. This is the way the playoffs are. So
Stupid.
we decided to look at it this way, and instead of kind of look at, well, hey, look who's in, we're looking at as who's in and has the potential to get bumped and who has the potential to go in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm sharing my screen here too, and so basically let's
Don't
look
tell him your secrets.
at here we go. So let's see who's in right now, and so obviously too we look at the Lions and the Chiefs here on either side of there.
Both number one
no
seeds.
surprise that the guys that are here, and what I like about
Yes,
this
there
too
is a surprise.
is it actually shows the percentage if they lose this week, whether they're going to make it afterwards, and then whether they win too. The difference that it makes here for some of these, but Cardinals are a team here, like we said, kind of a dark horse in here, up there for the coach of the year potentially, and that's a factor here where the Cardinals
factor.
they are there, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get bumped on this list here. So out of all the teams here, I'm most skeptical about these. Because I think these other teams, Eagles, Vikings, have been playing well. Falcons are even there on the NFC side. And on the other side for the AFC, for me, it's got to be even the Denver Broncos at this point. So what do you think about this one, Joe?
I think the Broncos is an easy one that you can go to. Even the Chargers, I think. I'm not 100% sure either one of those teams might not even make it. But I think what's happening with a lot of these teams, like the Broncos, like the one thing that's keeping them in games is their defense, hands down. They're one of the best defenses in football. They create a lot of pressure. They are the one team that blitzes the most in the league, and they do a decent job. Like they play man. They're all over your wide receivers. You can't really get big, huge plays on them. At least it's limited. And then on the offensive side, that's what helps Bo Nix as a rookie, and that offense trying to figure some things out. Cortland Sutton, who's an aging wide receiver, like they got some young guys that are in there, but they just not all on the same page. Sometimes they're still trying to figure out the kinks in that offense. Bo Nix is getting better week to week, but it might falter them as they get down the stretch. That's where, like, I could see them possibly getting knocked out of playoffs, like you mentioned. The Chargers are another team. This is a team that is just scraping by. Like, they're just scraping by and getting wins. Right now, they are the 6th seed currently in the AFC. But, I don't know. To me, they don't have a playoff caliber defense. They don't have a playoff caliber offense. And they're just, by the skin of their teeth, if they allow Herbert to throw the ball, they stay in games and sometimes come back and win. But that's not going to do it for you down the stretch when you're going to need a lot of these. You need to compile a lot of wins to stay in this race.
Right, and those two teams right there in the same division, they're going to play each other a few times here. So
somebody's losing.
So somebody could potentially get bumped in this one. That's the scenario there. But looking at the list now here, so this is all potentially in the hunt right now because nothing couldn't be official. So looking at the bubble, we've got a bunch of interesting teams here because especially for me on the NFC side. I think the NFC, even though you're looking at percentages and the loss, if they lose, like I think even 49ers has said something like 40-something% chance of getting in right now, right, or something, or is it higher than that?
Yeah, but if they lose this week
it's like
against
27%,
Tampa, it's
right?
37%.
37%.
If currently they have a 54% chance to make it, and then if they win this week, it jumps to 64%.
Okay.
You know, and the other team that I'll bring up too is the Buccaneers. Like the Buccaneers are not as bad as the 11th seed. They are going to get back on track and start winning games, especially when Mike Evans returns. It's going to free up that offense. If they win this week against San Fran, which would be a big upset for them, that jumps up to from 42% currently. It'll jump up to 63%.
Yeah.
So you're noticing big jumps if they lose or win, and if they lose. Buccaneers, it says it goes down to 32% of making the playoffs. But I still have confidence in both those teams. Now, there's a team in the Chicago Bears that is ranked 8th right now,
Right.
just on the outside cusp of being in the playoffs. They're sitting at 4-4, 500 type of team, but this is the part of the schedule where it gets tougher for Chicago. This is where I think you're going to see them fall out of favor, start stringing along losses, and they definitely. I don't anticipate the Bears ever getting into the playoffs, at least this year.
Right.
Because when you look at the percentages, currently it's 8%. Now, if it's currently 8%, you're basically telling me that more than likely they're just not making it, bearing a huge comeback. If they happen to win this week against New England, which is possible, it only goes up to like 10%. It's not that big of an increase.
Right.
So they got a long way to go. And I think this does take into account strength of schedule.
It's got to. That's the
Because
only way that the percentages make
Being
sense
8th
there.
seed, and if you win, 10% chance. Like that tells me like they are absolutely also looking into strength of schedule for each one of these teams. So a lot of teams, a lot of good teams, like even the Rams. Rams are the 10th seed right now. They have a 23% current chance of making the playoffs. If they lose this week against the Miami Dolphins, which would be a big upset,
Yeah.
it's possible, but it would be an upset altogether. It's 15%.
Yeah.
If they win, though, they jump to 28. They'll get that kind of little bump, and maybe they start to head towards a better direction to make it.
Right. And that's why when you look at these teams, though, Joe, that's what I think is interesting on the NFC side, because I think there's so much strength here on these remaining teams that are on the bubble that I think we're going to have a bunch of good teams that are outside looking in, because I can potentially
Possible,
see
yeah.
the Rams, the Bucks, and the 49ers vying for those playoff spots right there. So who do you bump? Like I said, I
Well,
looked
if you
at
scroll-
here,
scroll up
and
for
the
a
Bears
second.
not making it, like there. But again,
scroll up,
the Cardinals again,
let's-
and maybe
let's
what
be
happens
honest.
if the Bucks do jump in? Does that mean the Falcons then are on the tail end, looking in?
I don't think so. I think that I see a scenario where the Bucks will be in with the Falcons. I definitely could see it. Or obviously one of them is going to cancel each other out. But that's going to come down to the division race.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I could see both of them making it. I could see the Cardinals getting kicked out. Like I know they've
Right,
been
right.
a good story.
Yeah.
And currently, which is funny, they're leading the NFC West. But again, I don't know if that's going to last. I don't think the Cardinals team is definitely not playoff worthy.
Mm-hmm.
They're overachieving right now, but
yeah.
let's face it, like they also have one of the easiest schedules too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think they might have their struggles, here and there, and I think they might end up missing the playoffs, and that's going to leave a roster spot open. And then you got to look at teams like what's interesting to me is you have the Vikings, you have the Packers. The Packers are one of those teams where should they be in the playoffs? Yes, they should.
Mm-hmm.
They should make it.
Mm-hmm.
But this Packers team has been up and down at times.
Mm-hmm.
This Packers team has been underwhelming in certain key games, too.
Mm-hmm.
Against the Lions, they never rose to the occasion this past week. There's other matchups that they've had where it's like, okay, they should win this game, and then they struggle throughout the game.
Yep.
So that scares me about the Packers. I mean, you could see a scenario where maybe, and they're 6-3. That's the crazy part of it. Is we're
Right,
talking about maybe the
right.
Packers not making it.
Yeah.
If they struggle and continue to struggle in key games, especially, you could see a scenario where the Packers miss the playoffs, and that
Right.
opens up another spot for another team to rise. Like
Right.
this is going. I agree with you in the fact that like the NFC race for the playoffs, to me is more exciting right now than the AFC.
Yeah.
The AFC to me pretty much seems cut and dry. Like you got the Ravens, the Texans could be an interesting team because
Right.
they're not. they're not playing as good a football as I thought they were going to.
Mm-hmm.
They're still playing good football. They're
Yeah.
just sometimes like the offense is struggling in a game, and then other times it's the defense, and then it doesn't seem like they haven't been able to find a game this season anyway to play complementary football.
Mm-hmm.
And until they do that, I think that's kind of where it's hit or miss for them. But right now they're 6-3. I think they're going to win the division, so they're locked in. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
The Steelers, they're 6-2, but they played a lot of weak teams early on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Russell Wilson and this Steelers team is going to be challenged, and they're going to be challenged this week because they face Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders.
Yep.
This could be another opportunity for Jaden Daniels and company to get another win, get a little bit, possibly a bigger lead, a game lead on the Eagles if they happen to lose, and also challenge the Steelers.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing when you look at these teams here, NFC stacked, and what do you get though? The Packers, like you said, they've kind of been underwhelming, and I think a lot of it is just a play of Jordan Love. He's been turning the ball over, and that's what the key of the game is. Last week, and what's kept them alive, I'd say at least to focus on two players, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs making a push here now to be like I think top third or fourth rushing in rushing right now.
And they don't even run a lot.
And they don't,
That's
but
the crazy
that's what I mean.
thing.
It's like they've kind of relied on him now to try and keep them into the games and win some for him.
Yeah.
And the play of Xavier McKinney. I think if you talk about defensive players of the year too, I think he's kind of got to be in contention.
Oh, yeah.
To an extent too, because
He's leading the
league in
is it the
INTs,
league
I think right now
in
Yeah.
interceptions?
Yeah. So
He's like averaging one a week.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right. So when you have guys like that stepping up and playing for him, and the reason again for them winning has been those two players, I think. But then for them losing is you're seeing Jordan Love after a contract in a sophomore year, a little downtick that you kind of get that a lot of people are always worried about.
Yeah.
Out of a starter after his second season here. And like you said. So if you talk about the Buccaneers, you're saying they could potentially move in and jump into that spot with the Falcons. Then that means one of these teams is out potentially. Then the Packers or the Cardinals. Then who's in again? Rams. You got leftover Rams and 49ers. So I mean,
That's going to be the fun part.
Yeah.
Niners and Rams are going to duel it out for
Right.
that last spot. I feel like because here's the thing: is the Rams have been injured, have been beat up more on offense than defense, and the Niners have just been beat up like throughout the whole roster.
Right.
But they are getting healthy now. Christian McCaffrey, it's been reported that he's most likely going to debut this week. He's going to be back. Debo's going to be healthier. Like this team is getting healthy, just like the Rams are getting healthier. That's going to make this race between these two teams just cataclysmic. Like it's going to be insane. Like the competition that's between these two rivals, it's going to be awesome to see down the stretch who, in fact, is going to win. Because you also have teams that are like the Eagles, like 6-2. That 6-2 record to me, when you watch them play every week, it doesn't. They don't scream to me as like, oh, we're definitely going to be locked in. I just feel like sometimes they make poor mistakes, and they just happen to be 6-2 right now, but. You watch some of their games, and it's like they just kind of fall apart defensively down the stretch. They allow teams to get back into close
game,
proximity
close,
of winning a game.
Yeah, because it's not like they really, with the way Saquon
Not blowing
played, they
anybody
didn't
out.
blow out the Jacksonville Jaguars at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
what they do have going for them is where the position that the Cowboys are in right now. Again, no Dak Prescott. Again, the way they've been playing is not
Out
very
for a
good.
month.
And then the Giants too. They get to play them again too, and they're not a very good team. So
I feel like that's where
strength
their
of schedule helps out for them.
Yeah, strength of schedule and the fact that their division is weaker in the bottom half.
Right.
Like
right.
you never guarantee a win in the league, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure they're thinking, all right, we got 4 wins already in the season.
Yep.
Like we can beat the Cowboys twice, we can beat the Giants twice. That gives us 4 wins already.
Right.
So let's see what the Eagles do going down the stretch. Now they have really good percentages to make the playoffs currently, like 86%, jumps to 91 if they win against Dallas, which we anticipate them doing.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. We'll see. What do we got here?
We got Brandon, your brother's in the house. He
Whoa.
says Cowboys suck.
Yeah, there you go. Give it to him, bro. Give it to him.
Yep, and the others, still all the other comments out there. Everybody went quiet now. It's like I don't know if they're really soaking up the
I
whole.
think they fell asleep. I think
yeah,
we
the
talked too
playoffs
much
thing, we might have.
about.
The scenarios here,
The
but
scenarios.
To tighten up just a bubble here, let me bring up the thing here, the playoff tree. Like you said, the AFC too as well, not as exciting here. But if you're gonna look at teams go, I would say the bottom two: Chargers, Broncos too as well, and the Bengals. And you look at their strength of schedule, must be too, and their percentage wise. They have the best potential. You said the way that Joe Burrow is playing with that offense too as well. They do make a change here for a depth piece with running back to help out now with Chase Brown.
Yeah, Zach Moss, by the way, is done for the year.
Right, done for the year, right. But then also too, sneakily, I was looking at, sack leaders and Trey Hendrickson is leading in sacks with 11 sacks right now. Which
He's
is
an
it's
animal,
crazy.
bro.
He's
an
kind of
animal.
almost just out on an island doing it himself there on that defense.
The Raiders helped him out on that too.
Right here. So then if you look at the next two teams here, I don't think it's the Colts. And I have to circle back to the Jets again, unless it's the dark horse team is the Dolphins now.
Yeah, the Dolphins.
The Dolphins.
If they get healthy,
With Tua, he's playing efficient football again, and they are so much better with him
that
in
offense is completely different.
That can be the late push here with the Dolphins. So they're the dark horse team. I think
the
that drops in this.
The
one.
only problem with that Dolphins team now is they're injury riddled on defense, and they haven't done
that happened to
anything
them last season
before
too, at
the
end
before
of
the
season.
trade deadline. They still didn't do anything in terms of maybe getting a pass rusher or even free agent signings yet. Like, what the hell is Miami doing on defense? Offensively, they're going to score points. They're going to score with anybody. But defensively, I think that's where they're lacking, and that right there might very well be the reason why the Dolphins don't make the playoffs, because they don't have that defense to back up the offense. So, and we saw they had a great game against the Bills last week, only lost by a game-winning field goal. But man, the points are there.
Yeah.
It's just the defense isn't. So that to me is like kind of where it just falls off. Brandon also chimed in. He said Flacco about to have the Colts in the playoffs, and that could happen too.
Winners don't use
It could happen.
It could.
Because now you
I
have
don't
a
know about
healthier
that, but-
D-line that creates a lot of pressure. That defense is going to get back on track because of that. They actually have a decent defense.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
with
then
the
you
defense.
also put Flacco in there, who is definitely a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. It's not even questionable. But he puts points on the board.
Yeah.
They were within a score or maybe even like low two score drives
Last
to
week they had a
getting that game
chance to
back.
get there, and they just
So-
never got there.
I don't think that the Colts are out of it right now. I think after maybe a couple more weeks, 3 more weeks, we're going to get a clearer picture from the Colts what direction they're heading. But I definitely think the Colts could turn it around with Flacco.
It's another scenario too, where again the next two teams in that division, you don't know what the hell it is. You got the Titans and you've got the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I think for the
so just
Colts,
playing
Yeah.
very poorly right
I
now.
think honestly for the Colts, it's not going to be a legitimate playoff spot that they get. I feel like they could creep in as a wild card.
Oh yeah, definitely, most definitely. That's where
the
would be if
Bengals
they
to
would
me
get
is the clear-cut choice that'll make it into the playoffs as a seed.
there.
And who knows? Maybe it is a wild card, but I definitely see them making it, getting back to their winning ways. This is a team that is not far removed from playoff caliber football. Like they're getting healthier. I still believe they need to add some more depth, especially in the interior of that D line, maybe even a corner. And T. Higgins has to stay healthy. Like he has been out for the past couple of weeks. That's definitely hurt this team, but they've been able to adapt. So when T. Higgins comes back, look for this team to make a real major push for the playoffs.
All right, Joe. There you go. There's the playoff picture. Who knows, again, after this going forward, what these teams are
Who
going to do.
else?
We have a lot of good
Can we see real
games,
quick the bubble, like for the lower teams?
I guess. I don't think they're really in play for any of it, but we can look at it. Like, you think the Browns Jags or Raiders or even Patriots have an opportunity to
Well,
get in
of
here.
course
Like,
not, Jim.
Yeah,
I'm not
I mean,
crazy.
look at even percentages. So I mean, like, I didn't think it was even worth talking about.
No, but I wanted to see the whole list.
Oh, the list of where it is.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then scroll up. Like I feel like there's only probably. Yeah, I only see the Bengals
Yep.
and the Colts maybe
Colts.
get in
Mm-hmm.
that are on the bubble, and then up top with the teams that are already in there currently.
Again,
I think everybody else is like
in
on
pretty
pace to
good
make
spots. Right.
it. The bottom two teams, the Chargers and the Broncos, I don't think make it. I think the Colts, maybe the Colts and the Bengals make it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's it. It looks a lot more of a clearer picture with the
Clear
AFC.
picture to AFC, right?
NFC is very muddy.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a very. It's going to definitely depend down the stretch for the NFC teams. They're going to have to grind it out. It's going to come right down to the very end, the very last week until that gets sorted out.
All right, here you go. Dan's out there again. Dan.
Oh, Danny boy, said you guys really smoking some good shit. He goes, if you the Kevin McAllister and Joe Flacco are making the playoffs,
Winners don't use drugs.
I'm telling you right now, man, do not
I think
rule
it's
them out.
far-fetched. I can
Do not
see
rule
the
them out.
defense playing well enough to kind of get them close. It would be a backdoor in the last second. I believe more in the Bengals in that situation.
Yeah,
than
obviously.
with the Colts. Though.
Like
Yeah,
I give the head
Right,
to the
right.
Bengals, but like I
But
wouldn't
I have
rule out.
questions still about Joe Flacco.
I definitely wouldn't rule out that Colts team just yet.
Okay, so here we go. We're getting to the picks now, pick section. We're going to try and roll through these because also we have another show, the Blindside Blitz, every Tuesday night. You guys can check that out at Grumblings Media too, and check that show out too. It's awesome. We did picks last night too for that, but we're just going to roll through these the same way. I don't think we've changed any situations of maybe we have.
I might
depending
have.
on injury reports and stuff like that because the reports really come out today and things, so helps get more clarity there. But on this show, we do a competition. So here's the picks here. We started off a little sluggish here this season. We're fighting back, though. We've had continuous weeks of 11-4. Joe and I both tying a bunch. Just going through here, even picking different picks, but we've been bouncing back. I'm ahead by 2 right now, but that's a very slim lead. You never know. This race is tighter than the presidential race has been on this one. So on this one, we got red and blue here. Joe is blue. I'm red.
I am not
and there
blue.
we go. Well,
Screw
on this
you.
one right here, at least, in this matchup here. Yeah, and there it is. So it's tight. It's going to be a lot of fun here. And the loser has to drink a football-shaped mug here. It's a staple here at this show. We have a lot of fun. We have a drinking show. It's like the week after Super Bowl. You guys got to tune in for that. Ask a bunch of questions. We'll make fun of each other and just have a lot more laughs and talk like we do like tonight with all the comments and stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Joe, let's get right into it. Tomorrow night, we got the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is going to be an exciting game to watch. Again, defensively, Baltimore needs to play a little better, I think, at my end because, again, they've failed on some of these opportunities that kept these games a little closer than you would expect. But the key for them, Derrick Henry again. Run the football. The better he plays, the more efficient this team runs. Cincinnati, though, that offense is going to be tough to battle. I think this is a higher scoring game. It's not going to be a defensive battle back and forth. I don't think Baltimore is really going to stuff these guys a bunch. I think it's kind of going to go 24, 21, or even a little higher than that, back and forth with these teams. Like 40 some odd points in the game.
That's not that crazy.
Right. But I don't think it's going to be defensive. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be like 10, 17 or anything like that.
I don't think any game has ever been that way.
Right.
Except for
so
one, maybe.
I'm going to side, though, with the Baltimore Ravens on this one just because they do play at home. And Lamar Jackson on Thursday nights, primetime, he really steps up for these games, too, as well. I got Baltimore in a tight one.
I think both teams step up for this game because it is primetime. And if you noticed anything, primetime games, there's just an extra elevated level of play for both teams. When you think maybe it might be one direction or the other direction, they both seem to show up and play. I don't think this is any different. The Bengals are going to come to play. The Ravens are going to come to play. The difference is that the Ravens are just a better football team right now in the season and healthier. T. Higgins on a short week is not going to be available this week either on Thursday night, so he's doubtful to play, most likely not playing. And another one to watch is the tackle for the Bengals, Orlando Brown. in jeopardy of not playing. So that being
That's
said,
big.
and then
That's
when
a
you
real
look at
big
the Ravens
situation.
injury report as of today, just not a whole lot of key, losses there on that roster. So give me the Ravens in this one. They are home. This is going to be one of those clashes that they typically have. Like Jim said, it might be kind of low scoring. Maybe it's 17-14. Maybe it's 24-21, but it's not going to be anything crazy. It's not going to be a scoring, debut by both offenses.
Brandon says 31-21
That's
Ravens.
a lot of scoring. I don't know. Actually, it might.
I could see it be
it could be.
27-30. Like I think it really could be. I
It,
really think
it might be because the Ravens in garbage time get another score with Derrick Henry. That's where it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, both these teams understand each other, so it's going to be an awesome game to watch. I know I'm tuning in.
Yep. All right. So here we go. We've got our German game coming here.
Oh,
Munich,
you-
Germany. The New York
Yeah,
Giants.
you like.
9:30. Ja, das ist gut. The
Good
Giants
against
are
the
going
Giants.
to lose to the Carolina Panthers in Munich. Yeah, and I think I really do. I think I might see if I can get out and get an early breakfast and drink on here for this game. I think
beer
that'd be fun to go
garden.
to beer garden. Go to the beer garden and drink some beers. And this is a game, though, where Carolina, Bryce Young starting to play better here for this team. So, I mean, that's intriguing here. Do Carolina play hard against the Giants here? And, are the Giants that bad that they can actually lose to Carolina? I was surprised and shocked when Carolina was able to pull out a
To win?
victory here to win.
With Bryce Young, by the way.
Yes, but I think the Giants, they are competitive every game. Like it's so frustrating because this defense just plays their balls off here and gets you in games. And the offense, if they could only score, they're 32nd in the league. Like cannot score
Yeah.
a touchdown at all. Like
Wait,
32nd
you guys
in
are
the league
32nd
in scoring?
scoring?
In scoring,
Really?
32nd in scoring, Joe.
I didn't
Dude,
think
if you
so.
look at they don't even reach. Looking back at
crazy.
the stats, like they haven't reached over 20 something points, like only like once or twice this season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it like never happens. And the fact that they've had injuries at the kicking position,
Yeah,
you
that
can't even
definitely
get the field goals.
that definitely
so
matters.
that's what kills you there for scoring.
Hey, you got another kicker debuting this week, though.
I know, right? Somebody's out there. But with that being said, I don't know if exactly that the Giants are as bad as the Carolina Panthers still. I'm going to lay it out there, and I'm going to trust it one more time here. I think I'm setting myself out for failure, but at least if I am getting up early and headed to a beer garden, I'm going to have a lot of fun, I think, and drink myself out of misery if the Giants lose this
All
one.
right.
But I'm going to pick the Giants for
You'll
once
be
this week.
surrounded by other Giants fans, so it'll be all good.
Yeah.
You guys can be in misery together.
Right. So I'm picking
fine.
the Giants this week. What do you think? That's a big surprise here. This is a big step for me.
This
Joe.
this is step one of addressing the problem. You know what I mean? So, Carolina Panthers, they are starting Bryce Young, everybody, yet again, which I think is a little bit surprising to me because I would think that by now Andy Dalton would be healthy enough to take that position back over, but they're sticking with Bryce Young. He's played decent. He's played okay. He hasn't done anything great, but again, last week did enough to win, helped this team to win, so they're going to go with him. Another guy that they're going to get is their rookie that they drafted this past year. Jonathan Brooks is going to debut for the first time this week at running back, so I'm curious to see how they utilize Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks. That's all well and good, but again, they also have a laundry list of injuries. A lot of guys did not practice today. Adam Thielen is one of them. They're hoping that he comes back this week for obvious reasons because they don't really have receivers.
Right. They just
and
traded
then-
away Bingo even
they
too.
traded-
So like,
yeah.
where are they looking? At
I don't
things
understand
right now?
that.
Yeah.
Mingo is a young guy.
Young.
Like, you're not going to continue to work with him?
Right.
Weird.
Yeah.
Xavier Leggett is kind of the go-to guy now.
Oh, he's got to be.
But he dropped the ball last week. It's like, didn't help. But the Giants. Now, the Giants, this is where Jim's right. Like, the defense plays out of their minds every single week. They give it their all. And the offense just doesn't match that same intensity, doesn't
Right.
put any points on the board to reward, their defense and how well they're playing. So I think this is kind of one of those games where the Giants, and listen, the Giants did well last week. I don't know what happened. I don't know what got into Daniel Jones. Maybe it was because of all the hate that he was receiving all week long, all this season. But finally, something like turned on in Daniel Jones. I don't know what it is, but they figured something out last week. Now, can they continue that into this week against the Panthers? They should. But I'm going to give me the Giants with a better defense, with a defense that's going to put a lot of pressure on Bryce Young. And I'm betting on the chances that Daniel Jones and that offense scores more points than the Panthers.
Right, and I think there's going to be a lot of Giants fans there in Munich.
Giants
too,
travel
in
well.
Germany. So I think, again, and that's one of their markets, I think, that they're able to promote over there, is what I recall. So I think that'll be big.
I think
for
it
them.
doesn't matter. They're NFL fans over there. So
Oh, yeah.
you're going to see.
I wonder what song they're going to
packed.
play that they're going to sing to. In this
Oh,
because
yeah,
that's what
that's
they
right.
always focus on when they come back from commercial, right?
Yeah.
They always focus on the fans over there singing along to the arena music, and I think that is amazing here. Brandon says 17-9 Giants, so he's in agreement with
Okay,
that one. So
that makes sense.
that's giving him a lot of hope that they're going to score 17 points.
It's still under 20. It's
It
still
is
under
still under
20.
20, though. That is that right there in that scenario. All right, so
Like
New
it.
England Patriots and the Chicago Bears, Joe.
Chicago.
This is, I think, going to be a close matchup again. I still believe in Drake May. He had a little bit of a rough week last week, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, but still, again, learning, and I think still he is the future for this franchise. And it's good. We get to see these first rounder quarterbacks play each other. So that's going to be a storyline for this game. Chicago, they're kind of in the midst of stuff. They have a really good defense, but Caleb Williams is getting better, but that offense still not kind of running on all cylinders like they could be. That being said, this is, I think, going to be a close game, but I think that Chicago's defense is that much better to kind of stifle this New England offense. So that's going to be an issue for them. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears on this one.
Yeah, and Drake May said this week that like he can't wait to play against his good buddy old pal and Caleb. They're best friends.
Can't wait.
And that and that like relationship I feel like was like part of like being in college playing against each other, and then also the draft, being drafted together. So that's pretty cool to see. Now you got to face them though. Now you have to face this tough Bears defense. Can Drake May do it? My thing too is I've kind of changed my mind based on yesterday's take. Not because of the Bears defense though. It's more about the Patriots and how I just don't think they don't have the weapons that are stepping up. Like Demario Douglas is nice. Like he gives a little spark, and he's one of the favorites that Drake May likes to get the ball to, but they just don't have enough. And then offensive line wise, that's kind of like what I really worry about is like their O-line. Are they going to be able to protect Drake May enough with this Bears pass rush? That's the big question for me. Caleb Williams, I hate to do this. I really do, because I don't even like the guy. I don't think he's going to be the answer in the future. Give me the Bears in this one.
All right. Switching the pick.
If he doesn't, my thing is with Caleb is like he has a tendency to hold on to the ball too long. If he continues to do that, that's where the Patriots might be able to get one up on him. Maybe get him to commit a turnover. But other than that, I think this is going to be a tough matchup for either team.
Right.
But I agree with you, Jim. I think like maybe the Bears defense might be just the answer in this game.
Right, exactly. And like you said, the lack of trust. Kendrick Bourne is okay again, but Keyshawn Butte, that guy's been dropping a bunch of balls too. So if he could get some of those catches here, he's stopped so many drives.
He's once in a while he like surprises you with a really good catch.
Yeah.
Like
then all of a
how the hell
sudden,
did he catch that? He drops everything else.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's weird.
But I think one key thing for the Patriots, which is a positive, I think, with facing this Chicago offense, Christian Gonzalez has been a very good defensive player
he's
here
been
for these
amazing.
guys. He's been on the #1 receiver on every team they played.
Shut him
and
down.
been able to shut them down. Exactly. So that is a glimmering spot for this defense, for this team. I think
They just need more players like him.
Exactly. So, all right. So we got the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. First, Brandon says he's going Bears too as well.
All right.
Buffalo Bills, Indianapolis Colts. Yes, Joe Flacco's in there. I think that gives them a better chance to win, but still, I don't think they're going to win this week. I think the Bills, again, are a better overall team. They've added some pieces to help solidify their playoff hopes here, and then also Super Bowl hopes. I like the Buffalo Bills in this one.
Yeah, I mean, in this game, like after I just said, like, oh, don't count the Colts out.
Yeah, we'll count them out this week.
Count them
What
out
did that
this week.
percentage go down to?
Count them out this week because this is a very difficult team. This is a playoff caliber team that they're going to have to face. We're going to see something this week against this Bills team, and for the Colts, like, can they at least stay in the realm of winning? Can they come close? They're most likely not going to win, but can they at least be competitive against the Bills?
Right.
That'll tell me everything I need to know going forward, that they are going to handle the teams that they should be winning against. And that might turn that around to the point where they might have a shot at the end. Now, if they lose, it goes down to 22% of making a chance of making the playoffs.
Right.
I don't think they're going to win, but if they win, it jumps up to 42%. So, but even if they lose and it goes to 22,
anything can happen in the next couple weeks.
The next week or two after this, like if they string 2 wins back to back after this week, that's going to change back into their favor. So this week is not the week. I don't think it's going to happen. The Bills are definitely prepared. I feel like they're going to win this game hands down. There's too much to contend with. I feel like you're going to have to deal with way too many weaponry that the Bills now have with Cooper there and Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid and all that. So, and Ray Davis, that guy as a rookie running back has been killing people. So give me the Bills in this one all day long.
They definitely found something in Ray Davis here, and I think a key for the Colts in this one.
Don't give up points.
Is I think they got to really try and run the ball with Jonathan Taylor. They haven't been able to do that, and I think
because they don't have a good offensive line.
No, I know, but that's what I think. That's where you can kind of get the Bills. I think on the defensive side, I don't think they had that real run stopper like they did in Matt Milano before. So I think that's kind of a key for
What's
them.
interesting that you mentioned that. Remember how we talked about the Bengals and how they need to like sign free agents, do something for the interior of the D line. Well, guess who actually did that this week? The Buffalo Bills. Recently released Jordan Phillips he was on the Cowboys at the time. He got cut. The Bills signed him to a 1-year deal. Also, another D tackle, Quentin Jefferson. Some people might know him. Pretty decent player, but he ended up getting cut from the Cleveland Browns and is now on the Bills. So they're adding extra pieces, depth pieces that are going to rotate in. And Jordan Phillips, I believe, was with the Bills.
Yeah, he was with the Bills.
So Jordan Phillips is going to probably plug and play right next to Ed Oliver. Then you got Quentin Jefferson, who's more of a pass rushing type of D tackle. You can rotate him in. So the Bills are making moves to further strengthen that team.
Yep, absolutely. All right, your brother has them at 27-23.
Okay.
Bills. Again, I don't know if I see Indianapolis
Hey,
get 23 points, but
listen,
we'll see.
this season has to have taught you never say, well, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Because there's been teams where, like,
yeah.
there should be a win. Cardinals beat the Niners.
Yeah.
Does everybody remember that?
Yeah.
I thought for sure
right.
the Niners were
That's
going to wipe
true.
the floor with the Cardinals.
Yes.
So, yeah, we've seen stranger things.
All right, here we go. Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs, again, still not playing very good. I mean, Patrick Mahomes looked better last week, but, again, banged up. He's still going to play. Still have a lot of good talent there. DeAndre Hopkins is fitting in nicely with them. Still a little bit off together on some of the plays, but they're getting it down week to week. Denver defense is very tough here. Multiple players on the defensive side of the ball that have, many sacks here too. So, I mean, everybody contributing on that defense side. And the factor here that's interesting, I think, can Bo Nix kind of scramble around and make some plays, on the fly for this offense, I think, against some of this pass rush that you've been getting from an unsung hero in Nick Bolton, too, that really hitting those gaps, been that big kind of pass rusher for them, opposite of Chris Jones, that's obviously been their key guy there. I'm interested to see how this offense is kind of going to go with this. I'm obviously going to give the hands off to the Chiefs on this one, though. They do play better at home. They are undefeated, and I think their offensive weapons are better. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs on this one. But I'm intrigued and see what we're going to get out of the Broncos.
You want to talk about pass rushers? George Karlaftis is that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Bolton is a linebacker who happens to blitz once in a while. Chris Jones, honestly, I'm disappointed in him. And I'll tell you why, because we talked about it in the offseason about how he got this enormous extension. But what are you paying for a guy who takes plays off, and the only time he shows up is when he has to? Like when you notice in that game against the Buccaneers, he was getting blocked one-on-one most of that game and wasn't doing much. But then when it was like 3rd and long, and he was like, oh, now I can pin my ears back and really go hard after the quarterback and get there and sack him. So he picks and chooses his spots when he actually plays and when he doesn't play. So it's like, don't get it twisted. Like Chris Jones could be the most dominant D tackle we've ever seen, but the fact that he takes plays off, it really kind of bothers me, and the fact that he's not very good at playing the run.
Mm-hmm.
So I like him as a disruptor, but it's on his terms. That's my only problem. George Karlaftis is the exception.
Mm-hmm.
That dude is an animal who gives it 110% every single snap. This Chiefs defense is the reason why the Chiefs are actually undefeated.
Yes.
It is not the offense anymore. It's the defense. The offense, they're able to get the ball more times than not, to have more opportunities to score, and that's kind of the difference with this organization, this team right now, is they're not winning with their offense, they're winning with their defense. How long can you sustain that? How long can that continue? Against the Broncos, here's what I'm going to say. This game is going to be dictated by what defense outplays the offense, because they're both very good defenses. The Broncos, on the other hand, they play a lot of man, which I feel like is going to disrupt the flow of things for the Chiefs offense. The only one player that I could see that might be able to break this open is honestly Xavier Worthy. Where if you put a guy on him, if that corner or whoever is not physical, then he might be able to just run right by you and get that deep bomb, that big score. But all in all, it's going to be defense. Which defense has the better against the offense? I think this is going to be a tight game. I really do. I think it's going to go to the Chiefs, though, because the Chiefs don't only play offense and defense. They also have red and white stripes calling the game for them, too. So
Black and white stripes?
No, they're red and white.
Oh, red and white.
It's the Chiefs
It's the
colors.
Chiefs
So,
colors.
you know.
Okay.
So give me the Chiefs in that one.
All right.
My brother, on the other hand, is going crazy. He says, ready? 24-21 Broncos. Calling a major upset here. I would love that for that to happen because after all that they've managed, they beat the Buccaneers. They beat all these top-notch teams. And then all of a sudden, they lose to the Broncos in the division. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing to see. All right, here we got the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. Saints are done. Again, starting off with the interim head coach fired. There's just this past week. Atlanta, again, seems like they're that team that can be there and get better week to week. And Kirk Cousins, as long as he plays efficiently here, but he has been getting pressured a lot. But I think, again, key for them, run the football with Bijan Robinson, and, again, keep Kyle Pitts involved in the offense on top of this, and you'll be just fine. I like the Atlanta Falcons in this one.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not? If you've been paying attention, kids, to the Saints and how they've been able to play this year,
Right.
No bueno. Like they're injury riddled. They have no answer. Clint Kubiak, the new offensive coordinator, did extremely well in the first couple of weeks calling a game, and now seems like he forgot how to call passing plays. This team, and also another bit of news too, Chris Olave, who has suffered his second concussion in 2 weeks, is now in jeopardy of missing the rest of the season. And this is, from what I was told, this is his fourth concussion from playing football. So
Yeah, yeah.
This is a serious thing,
another
and
tough
he may
issue.
be in fact shut down for the rest of the year. And if that does happen, which I kind of expect it to, then this team just doesn't have anything. Like they have nothing left. They got Derek Carr, who's probably going to take a beating because nobody's going to be able to get open. So even though the Saints are home, the Falcons are one of those teams that we talked about, are playoff caliber teams right now. This is a win that they need to capitalize on, this opportunity right here. Get a win against a divisional opponent and get a bigger lead. So give me the Falcons in this one. I think that the Falcons, they've been playing pretty solid football, and this is one of those matchups where it's a must win.
All right, your brother says, I'm not surprised, the Dirty Birds, 34-17.
That's right.
So there you go.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not surprised with that one.
Nope.
But yeah, I think the score is even a little excessive. Maybe not
No,
against
I
this
don't
team
think
though.
so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true against this
Not
team.
they
You're
actually
right.
have a quarterback.
That's
It's
right.
not Desmond
That is
Ridder
true.
back there,
Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Next, we've got the San Francisco 49ers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this is going to be a super tight game. I'm
Yeah.
excited to watch this one. Baker Mayfield has done great with this team. It sucks that they don't have their wide receivers right now at this point, but again, he's making do with what he has. Ryan Miller,
Right.
you guys like Ryan Miller getting
Right.
touchdowns, stuff like that. Got people that you've
Ryan
never even heard
Miller.
of before. San Francisco in a down year right now, but they're trying to get healthier here. And like you said, hopefully they can start to get Christian McCaffrey back here. That's a big key for their offense. But I'm going to go inside with San Francisco 49ers on this one.
Yeah, the Niners, Christian McCaffrey, the update today was that he practiced and didn't experience any soreness or pain afterwards. So that is a big
Positive
big
for
positive
the
there for the Niners for
yes.
sure. For the Buccaneers, just like Jim was mentioning, like Baker Mayfield is doing a lot with a little. They're figuring it out, but it's just I just don't think it's going to be enough against a Niners team that is getting healthier, that is coming back. This is sadly enough, I think this is going to be yet another loss that Tampa Bay has to endure before maybe turning it around and getting back into that playoff hunt. So give me the Niners in this one.
Right, and that's what's funny about that playoff picture. When we look at it, some of the games, especially this week, are so tough for those teams to kind of jump back in there. And again, those two teams right here are contending. They're on that bubble, and they have to face each other. So this is a very important game for them.
Yeah,
because you
but-
see the difference in percentage that changes if you do lose this week.
Yeah, but not by much. Like that's the thing for the Buccaneers. They must have a weaker schedule down the stretch, which they can kind of turn it around and get right back in. But
Your brother
yeah,
has
it's not gonna be this one.
49ers 27-24. I like
Close
that one
one.
too. Yes. All right, next the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Washington Commanders. This is going to be a really awesome game to watch too as well. Interested to see how Jaden Daniels plays again, if he gets hit some more here with those sore ribs that he has. Washington, a great story stuff. I'm going to see how they play here. They again, sometimes they do put that offense up, but again, in that tough divisional game with the Giants, only putting up 20-something points against a team that's not very good, that scares me a little bit. And now you're facing this Pittsburgh Steelers where you got Highsmith on one side, you got T.J. Watt on the other, and Joey Porter in the back who's been playing well. You got a few others too in that
Got
secondary.
Preston Smith.
Yeah. Now you got Preston Smith now. Yeah. So they're adding some players there, and they've got Mike Williams on the offense now. And you see the difference with this offense with Russell Wilson in there. No matter what the haters say and stuff like that, they cannot deny it. You see, because when you're watching it, when Justin Fields was in there, he was holding them back. He can make some plays with his legs here and there, but offensively with the pass especially, and you saw it with the downturn of production with George Pickens, and now he's getting more involved in this offense too with Russell Wilson there. I think that's a positive for them. This is going to be a tight game. It could go either way, but I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers on this one.
Hey, Jim, I got some breaking news.
Sure, sounds
Right?
good.
Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore did not practice today. Does
Okay.
that shock you?
No.
So he continues his
Yeah.
trend
Yes.
of not practicing with the Saints and
Yes.
brings it over to Washington. This is not what you want to see if you trade for a guy. Hopefully that changes the rest of the week, but
So did he even at least pass the physical?
he had to have.
get that
Otherwise, it
trade
would have
off,
been
right?
nullified.
Right?
So, I mean, it's just
Interesting.
kind of funny how that
Yes.
works.
Yes.
But anyway, this is a team.
Your brother
in
says this one's
Washington.
tough. He's got 21-16 Steelers.
Okay. But this is, right. It is tough. This could literally go either way.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is going to be a test on the Steelers defense and this is going to be a test for the Washington offense. This is going to be another team that Washington has faced that is a very, very good defense, a top 10 type of defense. Like, they faced Baltimore in Baltimore, and they were close. They were so close to getting that win, and just didn't have enough, but they were close. Now, can they put it all together, learning from that lesson, and bring it to against the Pittsburgh Steelers? And this is also a different type of defense. The Steelers run a zone predominantly, which I feel is not the way you're going to want to have to play Washington with their weapons that they have at their disposal. With Zach Ertz kind of revitalizing his career at tight end, and I just feel like and the fact that Jaden Daniels his mobility is crazy. That's going to be the interesting thing. Can the Steelers keep him bottled up in the pocket and make him throw the football and not be able to get out of harm's way and take off for a run? That's going to be a big thing to watch. The one good thing I'll say this is that the Steelers, Russell Wilson playing great football the last 2 weeks. Does that continue? And at least it's not in Pittsburgh for Jaden Daniels, because that type of environment, that very hostile, loud environment, I feel like that's where the needle would bend for me anyways. I would give it to the Steelers if they were in Pittsburgh, easily. But because they're in Washington, I feel like this is going to be a little bit different. I do believe in Jaden Daniels in this offense, and I think they might actually pull off a win here and beat the Steelers.
All right, like I said, it's going to be a fun game to watch. Could go either way. Next, we
said?
got the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville, again, they were competitive against the Eagles again, but I think that's all just kind of like a facade. That almost kind of gets put on at this point for this team. They've totally made me look like an asshole here this whole season. So I'm just going to take it, the way it is, the whole season is. And looking at Minnesota, we were right on that whole thing there. Sam Darnold, named the starter. Still people are saying just because J.J. McCarthy was injured. They even said it in the telecast last week. But no, I think he was going to be the starter anyways, like Joe said, too, as well. And he's performing well. This team's got a lot of weapons. Defense is very good too as well. I don't think this game's even really remotely close. I'm going to say the Minnesota Vikings here.
Yeah, Vikings are also pretty healthy. Now that they have Jordan Addison back, and you saw him kind of last week got involved in the offense for once, especially after kind of complaining a little bit in the locker room about, yo, man, where am I going to get my catches? When am I getting involved?
Yep.
But now, and also TJ Hawkinson, you saw make his return. He got involved a little bit too. So this team, without having TJ, without Jordan Addison for a couple of weeks, Justin Jefferson early in the season missed a little bit of time. Now they're ready to go. Full steam ahead. Give me the Vikings in this one. Really good defense. Sam Darnold playing out of his mind as a starter. Not destroying the league, but he's doing enough to win games, and that's the name, and that's the bottom line. That's what you need to do.
And people forget you still have Aaron Jones there too in the running back position.
Packers fans are a little upset about that.
Yeah, maybe
a little bit,
but Josh Jacobs is looking very good. For
They're
Packers
still
fans
upset
right
that he went to the
the
went to a rival,
right? Exactly. I hear you. All right, next Tennessee Titans and the LA Chargers. Chargers right there. Typically or tight. Right now, they are in the playoffs in a sense. If you look at it right now, Tennessee, a not very good game. Again, we're hearing that Will Levis can potentially get the start this week. Joe, is that correct?
Looks like it. He practiced limited today,
so it's very erratic. I don't know what to expect still out of Titans. Again, they're not a very good team. I didn't think they were going to be a playoff team this year, but I thought they would be playing better than what they are right now. Will Levis, I thought, would take a step forward, especially with having the kind of additional weapons here. But now you do trade away DeAndre Hopkins, things like that. Not a very good team. And the Chargers, I think, are kind of gaining momentum slowly here, but playing a different type of offense here than some of these other teams are playing. So I'm going to go with the Chargers on this one and Jim Harbaugh to make a push for that playoff run here.
Yeah, give me the Chargers in this one. To me, this isn't really much of a conversation.
No.
The Titans have been playing underwhelming football. The fact that Will Levis is coming back, he may, he may give up a couple of turnovers. You never know with him, especially this year. Last year when he got his chance, did a pretty good job. So it gave you some hope as a Titan fan that this year would be different. It is different, but not in the way that you wanted it to be. So Titans, even though the defense is pretty decent, but I feel like with Will Levis come back, you just don't know what you're getting from him. Give me the Chargers. I know what I have in the Chargers. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to run the clock and score at the end.
Yep.
Give me them.
All right, Brandon's got them 23-13 Chargers as well. Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys here. Dallas again, it is not a good team right now either, and they're imploding from within.
They are. They're exploding.
Yeah, exactly. Again, you got CeeDee Lamb even banged up right now. Micah Parsons still, potentially out.
He's probably coming back
for longer, but who knows?
He's coming back this week, probably.
Right, that'd be big for them for an extent, but this team is already kind of, long gone. You got Dak Prescott that's out for multiple weeks. I don't think Cooper Rush is the guy that's going to bring this team back. Again, you don't have a running game. Philadelphia does. And Saquon Barkley, who knows what kind of WWE move he's going to pull off this week.
Right.
We've already seen the backwards hurdle. I was waiting for him to springboard off of another player and then settle down the drop kick after that.
Yes.
Who knows? Maybe he sets up and power bombs somebody, or instead of a stiff arm, he does a choke slam. And then pulls out the people's elbow. I'm not sure.
That's when he's going to get suspended.
Yeah, perhaps
that's probably not going to happen.
Trayvon Diggs. So here we go. Philadelphia, I think they're just a better off team here. Dallas, I'm excited that they are done. Eagles, your brother says 24-17.
Tell us how you really
Eagles
feel
as well. This is nice.
You think it's going to be that close, huh, Brandon? All right. The Eagles team, like Jimmy said, like Saquon Barkley's been running rampant on the league right now. This team with Barkley is a better team, but still not performing as well as they did a couple years ago. So I'm still kind of, you're getting wins. Yeah, you're in the playoffs right now. But I just need to see more. I need to see better football, especially offensively from Jalen Hurts. I need him to distribute the football to whoever's open. Forget about the deep play. It's not all about that all the time. Just take what's there. And also, the Eagles' defense is not playing that great. It really isn't. They got good players, but for some reason, they're just not playing great football. So give me the Eagles anyway, because I think they're just a better team all around, and most likely they're going to win the game.
I say it's going to be 27-16 because I feel like Aubrey's going to get the field goals for them, and then at the end in garbage time,
so I'll get a touchdown. I'll give the Cowboys. They'll have 12 points. It'll be all field goals.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I know. I was looking at that, but I was like, potentially. I'm like, maybe not though. All right. So here we go. We've got the New York Jets and the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals again. They're that spicy team now. There, people might buy in on this one again. The way that Kyler Murray's been able to play, you got Marvin Harrison there involved. James Conner's still there too as well. True. Jets pull off a victory against the Houston Texans here on a Thursday night. That was exciting for them. Big play for them. They needed something like that. Can they get 2 back-to-back wins here though? They can't fall to a team like this, like the Cardinals that they should technically beat again. You've got the talent there, Joe.
They can. They could definitely falter to this team. Because I'll tell you right now, as of today,
because we said it before,
the whole entire offensive line didn't practice for the Jets.
Jesus,
the whole starting O-line, whole one. Tyron Smith. So Tyron Smith, it was a rest day for him. Mm-hmm. Let's clarify that.
Well, that's big.
John Simpson, groin issue. Yep. Jake Hansen, right guard, hamstring issue. Yep. Elijah Vera Tucker, ankle issue. Morgan Moses, knee. Did not practice. Is expected to play Sunday, though. So maybe they'll have both their tackles, but who knows about the interior of the O-line. And there's some clarification on Rodgers. We saw him, taking his old man limps and everything throughout the season. He's a full participant, but he is still dealing with a knee and hamstring issue. Mm-hmm. So, and that's just offense, everyone. Yeah. This is a team where I feel like they played really good football in that primetime game under the lights, and that's what happens to a lot of teams. They just, for some reason, in primetime games, they overachieve or they play so much better than that is actually the team we wanted to see in week 1. We expected the Jets offense to be that good. and up to that past week, just haven't seen the chemistry. We haven't seen it get put all together. New offensive coordinator definitely seems like the right move because he's calling a good game. It's just the players need to continue to execute on the football field. And the defense, we all know how good that Jets defense is, and it hasn't gone away, even though the record dictates otherwise. I think with this matchup against the Cardinals, this is going to be difficult for the Jets defense because not too often do they have to face a guy like Kyler Murray, a guy who is blazing fast. And if you allow him to get outside the pocket or even give him a gap to run through up the middle of the field, he makes you pay big time. With that being said, with the Cardinals and how competitive they've been, and I'm impressed by them, give me the Cardinals in Arizona against the Jets on this one.
All right, yeah, this was a tight one for me. Depending, I guess, on how many offensive linemen actually start this game. Actually, you know what? Whatever. I think I'll go in for it. Why not? I think I'm going to go with the Jets on this one, just because I think overall, still defensively and offensive weapons, they have more talent than the Cardinals.
Ooh, burn Arizona, burned.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at what like Garrett Wilson did last week. I mean, the Air Jordan, you got to put that out there now on a shoe somewhere again with the Garrett Wilson.
Copyright infringement.
Oh man, amazing though! What an amazing catch on that one to seal the deal for that victory. So if you now he's hitting his stride, and you've got Devontae Adams on either side. I think that's a dangerous combination.
He's always been that good.
Oh, he's always been good, but you just seem like him and Rodgers never really got on the same page yet, and I think now they are. I
just think Rodgers had to throw him the damn football. Like early in the season,
times that they were
the only time they weren't on the same page is when back shoulder throws. That's the only time. Because Rodgers, this is why you go to practice. This is why you work these kinks out. So it's on Rodgers more than anybody else for that. But now you got Devontae Adams, you got Garrett. Well, there's no excuse for Rodgers anymore. Mm-hmm. You can't sit there and say, "Well, I didn't have enough players and I didn't have enough team guys that I'm used to." Allen Lazard is going to miss time, so he's not going to be there. You can't go to your veteran guy that you have a complete trust with.
Yep.
So now you have to depend on Wilson. You're going to have to depend on Adams.
Your brother says close game, 23-20 Cardinals as well. I could see that too.
This is going to be a good game. I actually am looking forward to watching this game because even though the Jets are a little bit banged up, at least today, maybe that changes over the course of the week. Mm-hmm. But the Cardinals, they're coming in pretty darn healthy. There's really hardly anybody there's a couple injuries, but nothing significant.
All right, here's Sunday Night Football, a game that everybody's going to be looking forward to watching here. The Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans. Houston, again, kind of let one slip on them, with the Jets. Had a tight game and lose that one. Detroit playing probably the best football right now out of any team. Yes, they do have one loss here too, but, they could have easily just have been undefeated as well. Offensively, running on all cylinders. Don't know who's throwing the ball sometimes at times, with the motions that they run here and there. The two-headed monster that is Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery too as well. Gibbs really stepping up and doing a lot here and being that leading running back there. And defensively, seemed like they weren't really skipping a beat even with Hayden Hutchinson out there, but they go and add a pass rusher on top of it. So this is a close one, but I think right now with the firepower that they have, I think I'm going to ride with the Lions on this one over the Houston Texans.
And that's the other thing, too, is the Lions added a pass rusher from the Cleveland Browns. Darius Smith is going to be debuting, plug-and-play type of player. Like, really just tell him to go get the quarterback. Yeah, that's what he's going to do.
Get him. Yeah.
So the Lions making moves, and rightfully so. When you're a playoff caliber team, this is the type of the stuff that you want to do halfway through the season to prepare for the long haul here. The Lions playing excellent football offensively, defensively, playing way better than anticipated for a lot of people out there. And now they've added Zadarius Smith. It would be amazing if Hutch was still there.
Right.
Just to see the two work together to get after the quarterback would be fun. But we won't see that unless by chance the Lions make it to the Super Bowl, then Hutchinson has a chance to come back and play in the Super Bowl. That would be a storyline that you could tell the grandchildren for years to come.
There you go.
But the Houston Texans, on the other hand, they are a team also dealing with injuries, right? Like Nico Collins still out. He has a hamstring issue. What does that mean? I
That
think
could
it's
be
an
a new type of injury.
injury-ish something. I don't know.
Yes.
But Nico Collins, they're still waiting to see if he can come back this week. They would love it, but I think they temper on the side of caution and keep him out for one more week to get him healthy. And the Texans, very good football team. I really love Joe Mixon with him there running the football. He's having an excellent year so far. This is going to be one hell of a game to watch for sure. I can't wait. But give me the Detroit Lions against the Texans. Unfortunately, Houston, I'm sorry, but you're going to take another L here, making you 6-4.
And Brandon, your brother, says 31-20 Lions. All right,
Yeah, they're just playing too
Monday
good.
Night Football here. Miami Dolphins and the Rams. You almost wish, well, maybe they could have flexed some of these other games out.
They did
you know
flex
what I
a
mean?
couple games,
Yeah,
but in the future,
in the
not
future,
not
not
right now.
something like
It's
this
too
or something
soon. You
like
can't
that.
flex
It
them in a week.
Yeah, but Miami, at least they do have Tua back. Makes this game a little more exciting here. So, again, I would not be surprised if Miami can pull off this victory here. But L.A., they're a surprising team, too, a lot of times. With what they do, they got Matthew Stafford here, still a great quarterback out there. You see the difference with having Puka Nacua out there. You saw the difference when he wasn't, though, even, too, when throwing the punch, getting ejected. Early on.
Not
and
bad.
yes, they at least still had Cooper Kupp there, but you saw the difference with not having him out there on offense. But hey, another guy steps up, and you got DeMarcus Robinson right there with some of the deep balls. And Matthew Stafford never give up in that deep arm. I'm going to side with the Rams here at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to right now. Like, this is a Rams team that's getting two key pieces back. Unfortunately, Puka Nacua screwed my fantasy team last week by throwing that punch.
Yes.
Got him kicked out.
Yep.
But hey, I had a conversation
Can't
with him.
blame you for starting him, right?
I told him, listen, no more throwing hands, all right?
Mhm.
We have to make the playoffs this year.
Right.
So just like your Rams team, my fantasy team is in jeopardy of missing it, and I need you to come through. So he understood. He apologized, and we're on good terms now. But he told me, he promised me a 20-piece this week. That's what he
Good. There you
promised me.
go.
So we're going to work things out. And I like the Rams this week. I really do. Like, that young defense is really coming into their own. It really has. Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk, both Florida State alumni guys on the same freaking team and making big plays every week. So give me the Rams in this one. Good defense. The resurgence of Matt Stafford now that he has his two new toys yet again. Give me the Rams.
There you go. There's it. There's our picks for this week. Brandon, your brother says 28-24 Rams. Joe, your Vegas Raiders are on a bye this week, so
Thank God.
they cannot lose this week. So
I don't
there
have
you
to be
go.
aggravated
Right?
anymore.
There you go. That's always a positive, right?
I'm hoping that after the bye week that Aiden O'Connell's healthy.
That
I
would
just
be
want.
nice, right?
I think he'd just be better. Just put him out there. Oh, little side note too. Jackson Powers Johnson, 2nd round pick.
Yes.
Played guard for most of the season. Moved to center.
Yes, moved to
replaced
center.
the center because apparently the center got injured. I didn't even see it, but
Yeah.
But now he's center. Dude, the guy's an animal. Guys throwing dudes around. It's crazy. Just to think, if we actually picked Talise Fuaga in the first round instead of Brock Bowers, that offensive line could be looking pretty good.
Right.
But hey, whatever. What do I know, right?
What do we know?
So
Exactly.
thanks, guys, for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys lasting this long, bro. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for all the comments and the
Absolutely.
suggestions on the scores. If you could do us a huge favor, though. Like, it's not much. We're not asking a ton here. It's absolutely free. We're not even asking
That's
for
right.
money.
I said we're the best entertainment that's free right now.
It-
With the
exactly.
inflation the way it is right now.
It doesn't
We're the
get
best
any
bargain.
better than this. Head over to YouTube for us. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to share to all your families and friends. This is the best and most interactive NFL talk show you're ever going to find, and we're absolutely free. There's no subscription fee. Come on, guys.
And there you go. Brandon with that last one. There it is. It says Restream right there has given us. We got another one. We received 100 messages today.
Yes,
chat.
baby. Let's
We've
go.
done it again. There
Let's
it is.
go.
There it is. Boom.
Nice. Like it. Love it.
Again,
Love
we've done that. That's like a
This
milestone.
year.
This year we've done it multiple
I think
times.
we've done it 3 times this year.
At least three.
Thanks
or
to
four
all you
times, so.
know-it-alls out there. Really do appreciate it, for sure.
Thank you so much. All right, you guys. We will see you guys next time.
Later.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.